It was from the Cataclysm. I can illuminate the technological tree. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251, Falling Venus, Bunker Plan. 2 months later, Jupiter. In the huge orbit of Jupiter, dozens of rays silently absorbed the helium-3 resources in Jupiter's atmosphere. Although humans have begun the evacuation plan, they still have to stick to their posts until the last moment. Even a tiny gram of helium-3 is extremely important to the human fleet that is about to sail far away. The back of Jupiter. The fleet, composed of 1,251 Nebula-class starships, silently adjusted their routes to keep themselves on the side of Jupiter that is facing away from the sun. In the fleet, there is a starship that is particularly eye-catching. Its extremely large size and its position in the center of the fleet all show its unique status. That is the flagship of human civilization. Earth. The Earth, which inherited the name of the previous generation of flagships, has a total length of 2,500 meters, which is 1,000 meters longer than the other starships. As the saying goes, an inch longer, an inch stronger. As the flagship of human civilization, Earth naturally has unmatched performance from other Nebula-class starships. In addition to having independent large-capacity material storage units and independent large laboratories, the Earth has thicker armor, a more powerful power system, and a more powerful weapon system. In addition, the Earth also stores a large number of biological gene samples. It is no exaggeration to say that, even if the human fleet encounters an accident, human civilization has a glimmer of hope for a comeback with the Earth. The huge command center is filled with an atmosphere of anxiety and uneasiness. Thousands of top scientists and starship pilots sit in their seats with nervous expressions. Everyone's eyes are fixed on the huge holographic image in front of them. In the holographic projection, real-time observation images of the Sun and Venus are presented. The observation screen is provided by the observation satellite in the orbit of Jupiter, so there is a delay of about 43 minutes from the real picture. 0. How much time is left before the impact? Standing on the command platform, LV Yongchang frowned and asked in a deep voice. The huge holographic projection screen in front of him changed instantly. A countdown appeared in front of everyone. 0 hours, 48 minutes and 36 seconds. Venus is expected to fall into the solar atmosphere in 48 minutes and 36 seconds. Zero's voice was flat. Only 48 minutes left. LV Yongchang's face changed slightly, and after a moment of silence, he spoke again. Everyone, check the status of each starship again. No mistakes are allowed in this bunker plan. Time passed by minute, and the countdown returned to 0. Professor, Venus has already fallen. Zero's flat voice sounded in the command center. The next second, the countdown in the holographic screen was refreshed again. 0 hours, 42 minutes and 45 seconds. This is the countdown that humans can observe the specific scene of Venus falling. The countdown returned to 0 again. The holographic image screen changed slightly. It was very similar to the scene of Mercury falling, but the whole scene was more grand and spectacular under the deceleration effect of the solar atmosphere. Venus was unable to maintain its original orbit and fell directly into the interior of the Sun. At this time, Venus has lost all its atmosphere and has become a huge lava ball like Mercury in the past. When it fell into the interior of the Sun, a huge hole was smashed in the Sun's corona. The brightness of the impact area instantly increased, and at the same time, endless coronal matter was ejected into space. The power of Venus's fall is obviously much greater than that of Mercury. The ejected coronal matter was even accelerated to escape velocity in a short period of time, flying straight away from the Sun. The solar storm is expected to arrive at Jupiter in 10 days. Zero's reminder sounded just right. With Jupiter's magnetic field 14 times that of the Earth, we can safely avoid this solar storm. LV Yongchang didn't care about Zero's reminder, but just stared at the ejected coronal matter. Zero, don't worry about the solar storm for now. LV Yongchang's voice was a little nervous. Calculate the trajectory of that group of coronal matter in Just a few seconds. Zero gave the answer. Professor, according to the simulation results, these coronal materials will be deflected under the gravity of Jupiter and eventually captured by Jupiter. LV. Yongchang subconsciously held his breath. How long will it take? Not only Lu Yongchang, every researcher present held their breath and quietly waited for Zero's answer. Calculation. Results show that the capture time is 5 years later. A burst of exhalation sounded in the command hall. I'm scared to death. Fang Zhu reached out and wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. What happens 5 years later has nothing to do with us. Yeah. Ko Liankei's voice followed. I guess we will all be outside the Kuiper belt by then, and what Jupiter is like has nothing to do with us. Academician. Fang, you don't know. Just now, I was sweating coldly on my back, and like the relaxed look of the people around him. Lu Yongchang's face was still solemn and serious. Zero. Based on the situation of Venus falling into the sun, simulate the scene of the Earth falling into the sun. A few seconds later, a simulated scene of the Earth falling into the sun appeared in the holographic projection in front. Slightly different from Venus. The moment the Earth fell into the sun, a helium flash erupted at the same time point. But the same thing is that the Earth's fall into the sun also smashed out some coronal material. Zero. Roughly estimate, if all these coronal materials are captured by Jupiter, how much will its mass increase? This time, Zero thought for several minutes. Professor, there are too many variables, and the calculation results will be quite different from the actual situation. It's okay, just tell me a range. Lu Yongchang waved his hand and said, no need for precise data. Jupiter's mass will increase to between 5.11 and 23.17 times the current mass. The moment Zero's voice sounded, there was silence in the Earth Command Center. Brown dwarf. Fang Zhu's voice broke the silence of the command center. Yes, Academician Fang. Zero responded in an orderly manner. After the mass increase, the probability of Jupiter becoming a brown dwarf has reached 27.96%. The so-called brown dwarf is equivalent to a star with incomplete development. Its mass does not meet the minimum threshold to become a star, but it is much heavier than an ordinary gas giant planet. Unlike stars, the mass of brown dwarfs is not enough to maintain the nuclear fusion of normal stars, but they can carry out deuterium fusion inside. Therefore, the surface temperature of brown dwarfs will be much lower than that of stars, generally not exceeding 3000 K. 27.96%. This probability is not low. LV Yongchang muttered to himself. PS. In addition, Saturn's magnetic field strength is slightly smaller than that of the Earth, and the magnetosphere only extends beyond the orbit of Titan. Chapter 252 Binary Star System. Yes, the probability is not low. Fang Zhu sighed from the side. I didn't expect that the sun could leave a legacy to Jupiter when it was dying. Perhaps countless years later, the solar system could become a binary star system. Binary star system. LV Yongchang frowned the moment he heard this term. He stared at the huge holographic image in front of him. No, that's not right. Looking at the huge red fireball in the center of the holographic projection, a flash of inspiration flashed through LV Yongchang's mind. We overlook something. He suddenly shouted loudly. Huh? What? Fang Zhu cast a puzzled look at LV Yongchang. The mass lost by the sun itself during the red giant process. LV Yongchang's voice was a little excited, and he suddenly realized that he might be able to grasp the real reason for the sun's abnormality. According to our previous model, the sun will lose about 50% of its mass in the process of becoming a white dwarf. These ejected materials will exist in the form of nebulae around it, but now, the changes in the sun are obviously inconsistent with this model. NGC 5307 Planetary Nebula, with a white dwarf at its center. Speaking of this, LV Yongchang's eyes revealed a complicated look. Not only does it not conform, it is completely different, not to mention the time problem of the red giant process. Even the expansion amplitude is not right. In the normal prediction model, the red giant formed by the expansion of the sun will reach the orbit of Mars, but both the new model and the experience of the previous life told LV Yongchang that the red giant formed by the sun did not even reach the orbit of the Earth before the helium flash occurred. The huge difference in the middle means the disappearance of a large amount of mass or energy. 0. Based on the current situation of the sun, calculate how much matter will the sun throw out during the entire red giant process. Ignoring Fang Zhu and the puzzled eyes of everyone, LV Yongchang directly gave an order to 0. Professor, according to the current trend, the sun will eventually throw out about 20% of its original mass. 0 quickly answered LV Yongchang's question. Point for it. This question is not complicated. LV Yongchang's face sank. Sure enough, a full 30% of the mass disappeared into the universe out of thin air. Like LV Yongchang, the faces of the researchers present also changed drastically. 30% of the sun's mass. This is an incredible data. Before the law of conservation of matter was overturned, there were only two situations that would lead to this phenomenon. First, calculation error. Second, Yongchang, what do you mean? Fang Zhu swallowed his saliva and asked in a low voice, is there something inside the sun absorbing matter? LV Yongchang nodded silently, or it is absorbing the sun's energy. Although he had a similar conjecture in his mind for a long time, this was the first time he had obtained direct evidence of this conjecture. What is this? Oh my god. There was a burst of discussion in the command hall. Although everyone present had sufficient psychological expectations for the abnormality of the sun, many people still exclaimed when they heard the news directly extracting solar energy to cause it to enter old age early. Such technical means are no different from gods in the eyes of current humans. Everyone, calm down. Hearing the discussions around him, Lu Yongchang gently tapped the table in front of him. No matter why the sun has become like this, it has nothing to do with us now. At least, the civilization that can tamper with the sun is not something we can afford to offend. What we have to do is to stay away from this place of trouble as much as possible. The command center was instantly quiet. Although it was a little difficult to accept, there was really nothing wrong with what he said. After a moment of silence, Lu Yongchang changed the subject. 0. Simulate Jupiter again. This time, take into account the matter thrown out by the Sunday perhaps, because there were more variables. 0 calculated for more than 10 minutes this time. Professor, according to the latest calculations, Jupiter will take away most of the nebular material after its mass increases, and its final mass will reach about 10% minus 15% of the Sunday. His a sound of people gasping for air came from the command center. 10% minus 15% of the sun's mass. This is going to become a red dwarf. Fang Zhu's exclamation came from the side. A little surprise flashed in LV Yongchang's eyes. Even he didn't expect Jupiter to be so powerful that it could inherit most of the mass thrown out by the sun. Amid everyone's amazement, the holographic projection in front of them began to play a simulated image of the solar system. With the helium flash of the sun, the red giant process also came to an end, and the sun began to shrink until it became a super solid white dwarf. This white dwarf inherited 50% of the sun's mass and stayed quietly in the center of the solar system. And the large amount of matter thrown out during the sun's red giant process was gradually captured by the huge Jupiter during the continuous drifting process as time went on. As the mass of Jupiter increased, a dark red light appeared on its surface. Its mass reached the critical point, and the flames of deuterium fusion ignited within it. At this moment, Jupiter was promoted from a gas giant to a brown dwarf. When most of the nebular matter in the solar system was absorbed by Jupiter, the color of its surface gradually brightened. It became a red dwarf. Although it is the weakest star, it also has the power to compete with white dwarfs. In the simulation, the gravitational system of the entire solar system is in chaos. Various celestial bodies are flying around under the gravitational tug-of-war between the 2. Time flies, and a stable binary star system consisting of red dwarfs and white dwarfs gradually appears in front of everyone. Saturn and Uranus have become satellites of Jupiter. Neptune is still a satellite of the sun. Unbelievable. The simulation scene in front of them made everyone exclaim, how long will this be? LV Yongchang stared at the screen and asked softly, Professor, probably in 50,000 to 100,000 years. LV Yongchang shrugged his shoulders and said helplessly, well, it seems that we will not be able to see this amazing scene 10 days later, a piercing alarm sounded in the command center of Earth. Alarm. The solar storm is expected to reach Jupiter's orbit in 30 minutes. In the command center, everyone's face became serious. Although there is Jupiter as a shelter, facing this kind of star-level natural disaster, human beings are still as fragile as babies in swaddling clothes. If they are not careful, the ship will be destroyed, and people will die. Chapter 253 Yongchang and -039 S concerns. The countdown is over. Solar storms with speeds reaching hundreds of kilometers per second blow through the orbit of Jupiter. Although this solar storm is the most powerful in human history, for Jupiter, this small solar storm is obviously not enough point in the face of Jupiter's powerful magnetic field. The raging solar storm cleverly turned an angle and bypassed Jupiter's huge body. Point Jupiter under solar storm, a large amount of X-rays produced at the poles of Jupiter were detected. Zeros. Reminder sounded, attracting everyone's attention. Point the next moment, in the holographic projection directly in front, the area where the X-rays were generated was marked with a special color. That's Jupiter's aurora under a solar storm. Point unlike auroras on Earth, Jupiter's auroras exist in the form of high-energy X-rays, which contain hundreds of times more energy than Earth's aurora. The invisible solar storm crossed the orbit of Jupiter and rushed directly towards Saturn behind it. Point like Jupiter, Saturn has its own magnetic field. Speaking of which, if there are still jellyfish on Titan, will this solar storm affect them? Yongchang, who was sitting in the corner, quietly asked his teammate Zhao Ziji. Rolled his eyes angrily. Say, why do you care so much about those jellyfish? Don't worry about the solar storm. If it develops normally, those jellyfish will have been wiped out. Yongchang sneered, and a trace of uneasiness flashed in his eyes. I don't know why, but I always feel like something is wrong. It's like something landed on Titan. Zhao Ziji ignored Yongchang. Point after a moment of silence, Yongchang smacked his lips gently and spoke again. Ziji, tell me, is it possible that some of the jellyfish have gained consciousness and are deliberately hiding from us? Zhao Ziji glanced at Yongchang with a very strange look. Wait a minute, I'll take you to Dr. Wen's place. I think you need a psychological evaluation. Yongchang, ahem. Pretend I didn't say anything. Yongchang waved his hands repeatedly and subconsciously shrank away from Zhao Ziji. So, will Titan be affected by this solar storm? Zhao Ziji opened his mouth, and for a moment he didn't know how to solve his teammate's strange situation. Not really. A gentle voice came from the side. Professor Lu? Yongchang hurriedly stood up from his seat and saluted Lu Yongchang. Point seeing this, Zhao Ziji also hurriedly tried to stand up from the chair. Sit down, sit down. Lu Yongchang happily sat beside the two of them. What? Are you still obsessed with Titan? Yongchang lowered his head in embarrassment. Point as a starship pilot who has received various trainings, he naturally knows that his thoughts are not normal. Point, but he didn't know what was going on. Ever since he left Titan, he always felt uneasy. Point. After thinking for a long time to no avail, he could only ask his teammates a question. Point seeing Yongchang's expression, Lu Yongchang reached out and patted him on the shoulder. Don't worry, with the protection of Saturn's magnetic field, solar storms will not threaten Titan. The worry in Yongchang's eyes became even stronger. He hesitated for a long time and then asked a question. Professor Lu, if there are still jellyfish on Titan, will they pose a threat to us when they develop into advanced civilizations in the future? Lu Yongchang was suddenly startled, with a look of astonishment on his face. This question, Professor, just think I'm talking nonsense. Yongchang showed a bit of regret in his eyes, reaching out and tapping his head lightly. Ziji is right, I may have to go to Dr. Wen. It's quite interesting. Lu Yongchang said the second half of the sentence, his eyes sparkling with interest. Come on, I just have nothing to do now that I'm hiding behind Jupiter. I'll give you a good analysis. As he spoke, he stretched out his hand in the air. Zero immediately controlled a holographic projection generator to present a holographic image in front of him. Yongchang and Zhao Ziji stared blankly at the excited Lu Yongchang. 0. Simulate the solar system in the next few years. In The holographic image. The fireball located in the center of the solar system emits a dazzling light. After approaching the Earth point, a helium flash occurred. The Earth was instantly melted into a ball of lava, which then fell into the expanding interior of the sun. Subsequently, the power of the solar helium flash is transmitted to the distance point Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, 0. Where is Titan now? When the energy released by the helium flash reached the orbit of Saturn, Yongchang asked softly. The holographic image in front of him instantly enlarged. Titan, running quietly behind Saturn, was extremely lucky to escape this huge damage. Oh, you're lucky. Yongchang's eyes lit up. He turned to Gao Yang and pursed his lips. Did you see it, Titans? Luck is much better than that of the Earth. With Saturn as its backing, not only is it unaffected by solar storms, but it is also not damaged by helium flashes. If there are still jellyfish on Titan, they have been lucky enough to escape the biggest disaster in recent times. Of course, we are not so lucky. Now there are only 4 gaseous planets left among the 8 planets in the solar system, so we can only borrow a solid planet suitable for survival next door. As he spoke, Yongchang raised his hand and gently swiped across the holographic projection. 0. Speed up. Time passed faster. Now that the sun has become a white dwarf, it can no longer release a lot of heat like before. Correspondingly, the surface temperature of Titan will be lower. Yongchang shrugged and reached out to touch Titan and the projection. But don't worry, the temperature inside Titan is not low. This energy mainly comes from the high pressure inside the planet, the decay of the core radioactive material, and the friction of its core material caused by Saturn's gravity. Therefore, these jellyfish are likely to survive. But it's not certain what will happen next. After Jupiter absorbed a lot of matter thrown out by the sun, it first became a brown dwarf, and then a red dwarf. In this process, I won't say much about how chaotic the solar system is. The point is that this process is very long, and will last at least tens of thousands of years. Even if these jellyfish successfully escape this disaster, they will still have to face Jupiter becoming a red dwarf. Once the new orbits of Saturn and Titan are far away from the red dwarf, if they get too close, these jellyfish will face another catastrophe. Yongchang looked at Gao Yang with a smile. Do you understand now? Your concerns are probably unnecessary. Gao Yang nodded blankly. Thank you, Professor Lu. Yongchang waved his hand, closed the holographic image in front of him, and stood up from the chair. Okay, I should go too. After the solar storm is over, we have to rush to the Kuiper belt. Let me explain here that the real helium flash only occurs in the core of the sun. Most of the energy of the helium flash is used to promote changes in the core, and a small part of the energy will be blocked by the hydrogen layer on the surface of the sun. Simply put, the internal reaction of the sun at that time was extremely violent, but no situation could be seen on the surface. Chapter 254 Unique Training Method. A few days later, the huge solar storm caused by the fall of Venus moved away from the orbit of Jupiter and flew towards Saturn, which is farther away. After confirming that there was no danger, the human fleet replenished its helium-3 reserves and started its journey to the Kuiper belt again. Under Zero's control, the whole thrusters at the tails of 1,251 starships emitted strong light, pushing all starships away from the huge Jupiter being in the star system. The acceleration and travel speed of the starships are not fast. The reason is also very simple. They need to use the asteroids in the solar system for training. Although they have passed through the asteroid belt with relatively dense matter, asteroids may hit several along the way in the solar system. Just like now. Not long after leaving Jupiter, a shrill alarm sounded at the command center of Earth. Asteroid impact alarm. A row of highlighted characters appeared on the holographic image in front of the command center. Maximum diameter of asteroid 5 kilometers. Asteroid coordinates X 573.4267 kilometers. Y minus 328.7123 kilometers. Z 1038.3422 kilometers. The Coordinate numbers are accurate to 0.1 meter level, and the numbers on the coordinates are still jumping over time. The coordinates here are naturally a three-dimensional coordinate system established with Earth as the origin. The x-axis represents the left and right sides of Earth, the y-axis represents up and down, and the z-axis represents front and back. Through this coordinate positioning method, the Starship driver can find the target object very quickly. Asteroid with a diameter of 5,000 meters. LV. Yongchang raised his eyebrows slightly, turned his head, and said to Zhao Ziji beside him, "Use electromagnetic guns and high-energy lasers to solve it." Hearing Lu Yongchang's order, Zhao Ziji's expression was slightly solemn, nodded, and pressed the communication button on the console in front of him. "Jinwu, B-31, please reply if you receive it." With almost no delay, a clear voice came from the communication device. "Jinwu B-31. Received. Go ahead, Zhao." Ziji did not hesitate, and reached out to press a few buttons on the console in front of him. "B-31, 1,100 kilometers away from you, there is an asteroid with a maximum diameter of 5,000 meters. According to calculations, its trajectory coincides with the fleet. The solution and the specific position of the asteroid have been sent to your onboard computer. Solve it immediately." As soon as the voice fell, a response came from the communication device. "B-31 received." A few seconds later, a series of flames and several extremely bright lasers appeared in the lower right corner of the Earth. The innocent asteroid, under the action of the electromagnetic gun and high-energy laser, did not even last a few seconds, and turned directly into a piece of powder. Report: the target has been successfully solved. As the report sounded, a new line of reminders flashed on the holographic image in front of the command center. The alarm has been lifted. LV Yongchang looked at the people who were gradually becoming familiar with this set of procedures and nodded slowly. "Yongchang, it seems that your training method is quite good." Fang Zhu chuckled, and said in a low voice facing Fang Zhu's praise. LV Yongchang shook his head, and showed a helpless smile. "I am helpless. After leaving the solar system, everyone will go into hibernation. When hibernation ends, we will fight with the Proxima civilization. With such a tight time, I can only choose this method for simulation training." Yes, all of this is a training task assigned by LV Yongchang. He ordered to block the automatic interception function of Zero, and all interception operations were manually operated by the Starship pilots, just to let these Starship pilots adapt to space combat as soon as possible. Fang Zhu ignored LV Yongchang's complaints, but said happily, "Now it seems that the effect is quite good. At least, their operation is much more skilled than before. Think about the scene in the asteroid belt. TSK. It's really terrible." LV Yongchang also smiled bitterly and shook his head. In order to train these pilots, he specifically ordered Zero to choose a route with the densest asteroids. The result is predictable. If Zero had not taken over most of the Golden Crow battleships at a critical moment, the human fleet would have suffered casualties before leaving the solar system. But the benefits of that shocking incident were also huge. At least these Starship pilots became much more skilled in attacking targets. Thinking of this, LV Yongchang shook his head and sighed. It's a pity that there are still fewer asteroids in the solar system. Fang Zhu rolled his eyes unhappily. "Forget it. Why don't you go back and see how the asteroid belt has been destroyed?" LV Yongchang's face froze, and he scratched his head with a smile. "Isn't this to improve their proficiency as much as possible?" "To improve proficiency, you don't have to go around the asteroid belt 3 or 4 times, right?" Fang Zhu complained again. "If this were in ancient times, you would definitely be a master at confiscating houses." Ahem. Seeing some of the researchers around him looking at him strangely, LV Yongchang's mouth twitched, and he coughed twice, and changed the subject directly. "Hey, academician Mo Xiang, come with me." After saying that, He turned around and walked out of the command center. Hearing his name, Yongchang suddenly raised his head and looked at the command desk beside him. Seeing that Yongchang had already walked out of the command center, he quickly reached out and pressed the controller on his watch. The magnetic force of several electromagnetic devices connected to the chair on the back of the spacesuit disappeared instantly. Then, with the help of electromagnetic boots, he stood up from the chair and walked quickly towards the command center door. As soon as he walked out of the door, he saw Yongchang standing by the porthole, silently staring at Jupiter, which had shrunk into a small ball. "Professor, is there anything?" He slowed down his pace, walked to Yongchang, and asked softly. Yongchang heard the voice, turned his head to look at Yongchang, smiled gently and said, "Academician Mo, how is the development progress of the photonic computer?" The moment he heard the question, the expression on Yongchang's face instantly became a little dry. "Professor, there is still not much progress. Unlike superconducting circuit quantum computers, photon computers require a completely new architecture and higher manufacturing technology. At present, we don't seem to have such capabilities." LV. Yongchang's face was slightly gloomy. As the threshold of the second level civilization in the technology tree system, photon computers must have their own unique difficulties, which is also predictable. But he never expected that a photon computer technology would hold them back for 2 whole years. Chapter 255 Pale Blue Dot. Perhaps for other civilizations, the progress of computer technology cannot play a decisive role. But human civilization is different. For human civilization with strong artificial intelligence, the breakthrough of computer technology will bring unparalleled improvement. The most basic improvement is on infrastructure. As long as Zero's computing power is enough, humans can achieve endless expansion. Secondly, it is the war aspect. Although all the tasks of intercepting asteroids are now handed over to Starship pilots, as long as Yongchang gives an order, Zero can control 250 battleships to form a dense firepower network and accurately intercept any asteroid on the fleet's navigation path. Similarly, the same is true for replacing asteroids with enemy ships. It is precisely considering this point that Yongchang frowned tightly after learning that the photon computer research and development project has not made any progress. Academician Mo, wait, I will go to the laboratory with you. I hope to overcome the problem of photon computers as soon as possible. Unlike other research projects, photon computers, as a core research project of human civilization, have not been terminated because of the fleet's navigation. This is also to gain the last bit of probability. If we can break through the photon computer technology before leaving the solar system, then humans will undoubtedly have a greater chance of winning in the future war. Yongchang was stunned for a moment and quickly nodded to agree to Yongchang's request. As the person in charge of the photon computer project, he naturally wanted Yongchang to help solve this problem. After all, it would be embarrassing if the news of being stuck on a project for several years spread. In the main laboratory of Earth, Yongchang carefully read the research content of Yongchang and others during this period. His knuckles tapped rhythmically on the table. TSK, perhaps because the difficulty of the project was far beyond imagination, Yongchang unconsciously tsked. The next second, under the anxious eyes of Yongchang and others, he reached out and closed the holographic projection screen in front of him. Then, he adjusted his sitting posture and closed his eyes. "Let me think about it and try not to disturb me." In order to increase the chance of winning, he has made preparations. He will try to force to get the hint again. Isn't it just another trip to Dr. Wen? What's the big deal? While thinking in his mind, he mobilized his consciousness and entered the technology tree space. Looking at the dim cursor at the top of the first level technology tree and the bottom of the second level technology tree, Yongchang's face sank. According to his experience, the brightness of this cursor did not even reach 10% of the research progress. No matter, he gritted his teeth and directly focused his consciousness on the dim cursor. A strong dizziness followed point. Before he could hold on for 3 seconds, LV Yongchang's consciousness began to disperse. Damn, I have to report to Dr. Wen again. The moment this thought flashed through his mind, he lost his consciousness. Oh, not bad. This time I have made great progress. A familiar voice sounded in his ears. LV Yongchang raised his eyelids with difficulty and struggled to look in the direction of the voice. I saw Dr. Wen holding a bag of space beverage in his hand and looking at him happily. LV Yongchang injured the dizziness in his mind and asked in a low voice, how long have I been in a coma this time? Drive. Wen raised his watch and took a look. So far, it's exactly 1 hour and 30 minutes. You've made great progress. You might wake up as soon as you're sent here next time. The corners of LV Yongchang's mouth twitched. Well said. Don't say it again next time. He didn't say any nonsense and got up from the bed directly. I say, Professor LV, you won't go to the laboratory again, will you? Dr. Wen finished the drink in the package, reached out and threw the package into a special garbage bag, and looked at him strangely. Any questions? LV Yongchang frowned. I suggest you take a rest for a while. Dr. Wen shrugged and reached out to open a holographic image. Although the time you wake up from the coma is getting shorter and shorter, it seems that your condition is getting better. But at this point, Dr. Wen's voice suddenly paused. I don't know how you can make your brain overclock like a CPU, but your brain is made of flesh after all. Every time you faint, it will cause a lot of burden on your brain. LV Yongchang's face changed slightly. After thinking for a while, he sighed. Okay, I'll listen to you, but if you insist on tossing, it's okay. After all, your brain has exceeded the current biological cognition of human beings. Who knows what will happen in the end? Maybe you can provide us with some materials. Dr. Wen suddenly stopped talking and blinked his eyes. What did you just say? Ready to rest, LV Yongchang. Material, did she just say material? Cheo, no wonder I always feel that she looks at me a little strange. I said, I'm going to take a good rest for a while. LV Yongchang gritted his teeth and said, the experience of continuous setbacks in the system also made him realize a problem. The threshold of the second level civilization is still a bit too high for today's humans. More haste, less speed. We should wait until we have solved the problem of Proxima Centauri civilization before developing photonic computers. TSK. Dr. Wen pointed at the door unhappily. The door is over there. Go back by yourself. LV Yongchang. 2045. There is still 1 month before reaching the Kuiper belt and 1 month before the solar helium flash. Professor, the sun is approaching the Earth's orbit. Zeros voice sounded in the command center. LV Yongchang did not speak, but silently stood up and walked to the porthole. Looking back, in the deep darkness, there was a small light spot. The light spot was dim blue. Dim blue dot. That was the former home of mankind. The Earth. Everything that mankind once had happened on this blue dot. On the scale of the universe, the magnificent history of human civilization is just a trivial matter that happened on a dim blue dot. 0. Are the detectors we placed later still working properly? LV Yongchang looked at the scenery outside the porthole and asked in a low voice. Of course. As the voice fell, a spectacular scene appeared in the holographic image on the side. A huge red fireball and a bare planet. That is the Earth today. The atmosphere and water on the surface were completely blown away, leaving only bare rock layers. Looking at the unrecognizable Earth, LV Yongchang felt even more helpless. He waved his hand and was about to ask Zero to close the holographic image. Suddenly, an extremely bright light flashed across the surface of the sun. Chapter 256. What does it have to do with you if I destroy you? etc. Lu Yongchang suddenly stopped waving and shouted, Zero, play back the video and find the light spot for me. Lu Yongchang's shout broke the silence of the command center. Everyone cast doubtful glances at Lu Yongchang. Yongchang? Fang Zhu's voice came from afar. What happened? The half-dissipated holographic projection condensed again, and the images played in it quickly began to regress. When he saw that shining spot of light appear again on the surface of the sun, he shouted, "Stop!" The picture stops immediately. Point on the surface of the red fireball. An object far exceeding the brightness of the sun appeared. Point. Yongchang reached out and swept through the air, and the holographic projection in front of him instantly collapsed. Point later, the same picture appeared on the huge holographic projection directly in front of the command center. This Fang Zhu's eyes suddenly widened, and he blurted out, "What is this? Has the sun had another accident?" "No, I'm afraid it's not the sun." For a time, countless noisy discussions were heard in the command center. Yongchang ignored everyone's comments and said directly, "Zero, process the image." "Okay, Professor." The picture in the giant holographic projection changed rapidly. Point areas of bright light on the sun's surface are continuously magnified. Point gradually, the image became slightly blurry. Point, but with zero treatment, the image became clear again. Point, after repeating this operation several times, and after a series of zero processes, a clear image of the light spot gradually appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Fuck, WTF. When they saw the clear image of the light spot, everyone in the command center suddenly cursed. Point, there is no other reason. Point, that is an object full of man-made traces, a spherical silver-white object with an extremely smooth surface. Point, at least in the holographic projection, Yongchang did not see any roughness or bulges on its surface. Point, maybe it's because the distance is too far, or maybe it's made in one piece. But Yongchang didn't find any traces of splicing. Zero. Slow down the video and see where it goes, Yongchang said with an ugly expression. Point Zero didn't speak and just played the video silently. Point the next moment, the silver-white sphere disappeared directly in front of everyone's eyes. Zero? Yongchang looked panicked and subconsciously shouted, "Professor, we are looking for the target. Please wait." As Zero's response sounded, the holographic projection screen in front of him began to change rapidly. Point densely packed pixels are beating crazily in front of everyone. Time passed by, and the atmosphere in the command center gradually became solemn. Point after more than 10 minutes, the beating pixels suddenly stopped. Point the light spots on the dark background glow a little. Point compared with the scene just now, the light on the surface of this silver-white object seems to have dimmed a lot. Is it moving away from the sun? Yongchang frowned slightly and expressed his guess. "Yes, Professor, can you calculate its direction of travel?" Yongchang asked in a low voice. After a short wait, Zero gave his answer. "The central region of the Milky Way." Yongchang's expression changed slightly, and he asked again, "Are there any other scenes?" "Sorry, Professor. Among all the video materials, I only found these 2 seconds of footage." Zero quickly replied, "In the second of footage, it has already appeared in the very corner of the video." The command hall fell into dead silence. Point only 2 seconds of footage. Point this UFO actually covered such a long distance in just 2 seconds. This astonishing flight speed seems to declare to mankind the technological gap between the two. Gudu. Yongchang swallowed lightly. Point. After swallowing the panic and shock in his heart, he took a deep breath. Zero, based on the image ratio, roughly estimate its data. After a short waiting time, the size of the Zero estimate was presented to everyone. Diameter 3,000 kilometers. Quality insufficient data, unable to estimate. Current speed 0.5-0.8 times the speed of light. Maximum speed insufficient data, unable to estimate. The data in front of me was like a pair of thick hands, strangling the throats of everyone present. This is impossible. Ko Liankei's horrified voice came from the side. How could there be such a powerful man-made object? 3,000 kilometers in diameter. This is almost as big as the moon. Think about it. A moon accelerated to 0.5 times the speed of light in such a short period of time. This is too exaggerated. Zero must have been miscalculated, or there is an error in the images taken by the detector. Yes, that must be the case. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible to have such an aircraft. Ko Liankei's low murmur echoed in the command center. Yongchang sighed softly. turned to look at Ko Liang, whose face was full of fear, and slowly shook his head. Old Ko, there is no need to lie to yourself. The facts are before us. If nothing unexpected happens, our sun will probably be destroyed by this object. Yongchang lowered his eyelids to hide the horror in his eyes. It absorbed 30% of the mass of the sun and completed its mission. Mission? What mission? Ko Liang panted hard and asked in horror. Destroy human civilization. Not that bad. Fang Zhu's bitter voice sounded beside him. Probably. It's to collect energy. If you want to destroy humans, you don't have to use weapons of this level. No, maybe not weapons. Collect energy. Just because we collect energy, we have to. Ko Liang excitedly broke free from the magnetic suction device on the seat point. Fortunately, with the fixation of electromagnetic boots, he didn't fly to the ceiling point, but the pulling feeling at that moment was not pleasant. Ko Liang exhaled a few hot breaths with force, suppressing the excitement in his heart due to fear. I'm sorry, I lost my composure. He lowered his eyelids and apologized softly. Then, he seemed to have lost his temper and sat back in his chair. Click. The sound of the magnetic device fitting together rang in everyone's ears. Yongchang shook his head with difficulty. It's okay. It's human nature. I can understand it. No one responded to his words. Yongchang didn't care about this little problem. As the chief scientist, he naturally knew how much of a blow this scene had caused to everyone present. Thinking that human civilization was destroyed just because of the energy collection device of a certain advanced civilization. Yongchang felt a chill behind his back. He closed his eyes and whispered a sentence that emerged in his heart. What does it have to do with you to destroy you? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257 Human Fleet. Advancing 4. In the following time, the atmosphere in the fleet seemed particularly depressing. Yongchang had no good solution for this situation. Not to mention ordinary scientific researchers and starship pilots. Even he himself found it difficult to accept this reality. The entire solar system was so easily destroyed at the hands of an advanced civilization that had never been seen before. A few days later, a group of scientists started a discussion about the attitude of this unknown advanced civilization towards human beings. Needless to say, the process of discussion highlights a confusion. Some scientists believe that the purpose of this advanced civilization is only energy, and that human civilization just has bad luck. There are also many people who hold objections. The reason is very simple. There are countless stars in the Milky Way, so there is no need for people to come to this remote corner to target a small yellow dwarf star. The two groups of people argued fiercely until Yongchang revealed his previous suspicion. Conjectures about Voyager. You mean it was the Voyager that exposed human information, which led to targeted strikes by higher civilizations? Fang Zhu frowned, shook his head and said, but why did they choose this method to attack us? Doesn't this give us a chance to escape? Yongchang looked at Fang Zhu with a strange expression. Are you sure? At our original development rate, is it possible for us to escape? The moment the words fell, the conference room fell into silence. In other words, can human civilization continue to exist when only a few thousand or tens of thousands of people escape? Yongchang stood up from his seat and glanced around at the faces of everyone with different expressions. I think that the unknown advanced civilization must have malicious intentions towards us, and the blow we receive must be targeted. The moment the words fell, there was a burst of noisy discussion in the conference room. Yongchang coughed hard and spoke again. It's just that, perhaps to save resources or to recover costs, higher civilizations chose this inconspicuous means of attack. Of course, even then, it's not something we can afford. Then, will we still be hit? A voice sounded from the corner of the conference room. Yongchang turned his head and looked in the direction of the sound. He is a scientific researcher with little sense of existence. Yongchang was silent for a while and slowly shook his head. I don't know, but I think it won't happen. That energy harvesting device has left, proving that according to its logic, it is impossible for humans to escape this disaster. Speaking of this, Yongchang smiled bitterly and shook his head. I believe that these advanced civilizations are not so free and will stare at us little ants. So, guys, cheer up, don't worry about the advanced civilization we have never met before. Our primary target now is the Proxima Centauri civilization next door. A month passed by. In a flashpoint, the human fleet has officially entered the Kuiper belt. Bad signal detected. In the holographic screen in front of the command center, a line of inspiring Chinese characters jumped out. 0. Go to the source of the signal. Let's go take them home. Yongchang, who was standing on the podium, shouted loudly with excitement in his eyes. Somewhere in the Kuiper belt, 1251 starships slowly slowed down. Point right in front of these starships. 380 Luaneo starships stay quietly in the deep space. 0. How is the condition of the Luaneo starship? As the distance to the Luaneo starship group became closer and closer, Yongchang's mood gradually became agitated. He asked repeatedly, what is the physical condition of the 3.8 billion human beings? Are any of the hibernating cabins damaged? As for 0, he was naturally 1510, patiently answering Yongchang's questions. Professor, the overall condition of the Luaneo starship is good. Among them, the total fuel remaining is 58%, and the number of removable and recyclable parts is Yongchang, forget it. You should talk about the hibernation cabin and the situation of 3.8 billion humans. Zeros. Report stopped abruptly. Okay, Professor, the overall condition of the hibernation cabin is good. Within 10 years, the hibernation cabin failure rate is 0.78%. However, thanks to the maintenance work of iRobot, so far, there have been only 16,936 deaths among 3.8 billion humans. Following Zero's announcement, all the statistical data in recent years appeared in front of him. Looking at the cases of death due to various reasons in front of him, Yongchang shook his head helplessly. For such a weak artificial intelligence, it is pretty good to be able to control the mortality rate to this level. Start the reception work. Yongchang waved his hand, trying to turn off the holographic image in front of him. When everyone transfers to the home ship, we can prepare to set off. The holographic projection did not disappear as usual. 0. Professor. Zero's avatar appeared in front of Yongchang. Helium flash has occurred. Hearing this, Yongchang couldn't help but fell into silence. He subconsciously turned his head and looked toward the porthole. Professor, you can't see the helium flash happening yet. 0 reminded softly. I know. Yongchang sighed softly. At this moment, his mood was extremely complicated. There was a sense of sadness, a sense of relief, and a sense of relief. Let's do it. In addition to transferring the hibernation capsule, remember to take away all the useful resources inside the 380 Luaneo. We don't have much time to waste. The holographic projection quietly dissipated. Outside the porthole, an extremely short and extremely bright light came from the direction of the sun. Earth calendar 2046. 1.1 The human fleet slowly sailed towards the outer edge of the Kuiper belt. And the 380 Luaneo starships seemed to have turned into a piece of space junk floating in the empty space. Inside Earth, Yongchang stood in front of his hibernation capsule and turned his head to look at the porthole beside him again. Goodbye, solar system. After saying hello in his heart, he turned his head and entered the hibernation capsule without hesitation. 0. Speed up at full speed and head towards Proxima Centauri. Through the brainwave reading device, Yongchang issued his last order. A slight tingling sensation came from his arm. His eyelids gradually became heavy. He slowly closed his eyes, and a final thought flashed through his mind. I don't know what kind of challenges human civilization will face when he wakes up again. Hibernation successful. A line of Chinese characters flashed on the holographic projection outside the hibernation cabin. Human fleet, forward 4. The extremely powerful thrust came from the Hall thruster, pushing the fleet out of the solar system. Under continuous acceleration, the fleet's maximum speed will reach 10% of the speed of light point, counting the acceleration and deceleration time. Estimated time to arrive at Proxima Centauri, Earth Calendar 2146 Solar System Chapter N. Chapter 258. Earth Calendar 2096.50 years have passed since the human fleet left the solar system. Point in the empty universe between the solar system and the Proxima galaxy, a large fleet of 1,251 starships slowly drifted at a speed of 10% of the speed of light. Occasionally, a faint light would be emitted from the tail of the starship, and then it would quickly dim. That was the light produced by the intermittent operation of the Hall thruster. Although the star systems are extremely empty, there are still a small amount of interstellar dust and gas for starships with a speed of 10% of the speed of light. These extremely rare interstellar materials will still produce considerable resistance. Therefore, under the premise of saving energy as much as possible, Zero can only control the Hall thrusters of all starships to perform irregular intermittent ejection. Just as the fleet was heading normally towards its destination, several probes issued an alarm to the flagship, Earth. A few seconds later, several large radio telescopes set up outside the Earth starship quietly changed an angle and aimed the lens at a dim star in front of them. Proxima Point inside the Earth Central Supercomputing Center. In the dim cabin, there were twinkling lights everywhere. The humming sound of the cooling system filled the cabin. A red light with a warning suddenly appeared in a corner of the supercomputing center. Abnormal situation detected. Situation classification in progress. Error. The current situation is not scheduled. Warning. Warning. Level 1 abnormal situation. The red light instantly filled the entire supercomputing center. Wake up procedure in progress. Wake up personnel. A burst of rapid alarm sounded in LV Yongchang's ears. Perhaps because of the long hibernation, the alarm sounded particularly ethereal, giving people a sense of unreality. Professor LV, Professor LV, there is a problem with Proxima. Under the rapid reminders again and again, LV Yongchang's consciousness gradually returned, and he slowly opened his eyes. He subconsciously took a breath. Cough, cough, cough. The deep sea fluid remaining in his lungs instantly made him realize the dangers of the world. He coughed while reaching out to pull off his mask. With a tingling feeling coming from his trachea, a long white tube was pulled out of his nasal cavity. After a violent cough, LV Yongchang finally recovered. He endured the discomfort from his abdomen and climbed out of the hibernation cabin. Zero's virtual image stood in front of the hibernation cabin, looking at him respectfully. Zero, what time is it? Have we reached our destination? As soon as the words came out, LV Yongchang was startled by his hoarse voice. Professor, it is August 11th, 2096 in the Earth calendar, 2096. LV Yongchang's brows frowned instantly. According to the planned schedule, they will arrive at their destination in the year 2146 of the Earth calendar, and now, the awakening time is 50 years earlier. As the time of awakening gets longer and longer, his consciousness gradually becomes clearer. He noticed the flashing red light around him. After a brief moment of daze, his face changed drastically. Zero, what happened? The red light flashed, and he was awakened in advance. LV Yongchang instantly realized the reason why he was awakened. Level 1 abnormal condition. In LV Yongchang's settings, he would only be awakened in advance if this level of abnormal condition occurred. As for what is a level 1 abnormal condition, it's very simple. When encountering an alien fleet, the hibernation chamber fails on a large scale, or the fleet loses more than 10% of its starships in a short period of time. To sum it up, it's just one sentence. Only situations that may lead to the extinction of human civilization are considered level 1 abnormal conditions at this moment. Countless bad thoughts flashed through LV Yongchang's mind. Professor, it's Proxima civilization, Zero said as he unfolded a holographic projection in front of LV Yongchang. The latest observation results show that Proxima seems to have undergone a series of abnormal changes. LV Yongchang stretched out his hand to slide the projection interface and took a rough look at all the observation data. A few hours later, Earth Command Center. Everyone, The situation is urgent. I won't waste any more words. LV. Yongchang stood in front of everyone with a solemn expression and stretched out his hand to open the huge holographic projection on the side. Our destination, Proxima Centauri, has also encountered a similar situation as us. As he spoke, he pointed to the right side of the projection. Here are the latest observation results of Proxima Centauri, and on the left are the observation results of 50 years ago. You can clearly see that Proxima Centauri's brightness has dropped by a level in 50 years. According to Zero's calculation, at the current speed, in about 120 to 150 years, Proxima Centauri will go extinct and become a black dwarf that only exists in theory. After the voice fell, everyone's face changed slightly. How could this be? Fang Zhu looked at the holographic image in front of him with an ugly face. Like us, there is also an energy collection device of an advanced civilization in Proxima Centauri. LV. Yongchang nodded silently. It should be like this. In fact, this is also a foreseeable result. As he spoke, he sighed deeply. Since the information we sent can be detected by advanced civilizations, there is no reason for Proxima civilization to escape this blow. This also proves the correctness of the dark forest law for us. Fang Zhu's face became more and more ugly. What should we do now? Still go to Proxima. Originally, it was thought that after escaping the solar system, humans would be greeted by a star system suitable for long-term living and development. But who would have thought that it was a star system sentenced to suspended death? Of course, hearing Fang Zhu's question, LV Yongchang answered without hesitation. This answer also stunned everyone present. Let me talk about the most fundamental reason first. LV Yongchang smiled bitterly and shook his head. We don't have enough supplies, although there are still a lot of survival supplies. Our fuel and replacement parts only allow us to go to the nearest Proxima. Everyone fell into silence. This is also the biggest pain point of human civilization at present. So, we still have to fight with Proxima for the star that is about to go out? Fang Zhu sighed hard and said softly, yes. Feeling the heavy atmosphere in the command center, LV Yongchang took a deep breath and clapped his hands gently, attracting everyone's attention. Of course, there is also good news. To be precise, it is half good news. Chapter 259. Running in both directions. Proxima is not like the sun. At least it won't have a helium flash, so we don't need to run around. In the Proxima system, there are not only solid planets suitable for survival, but also a gas giant planet. Even if Proxima goes out, we can still get an excellent opportunity for development. This is the first good news. As for the other half of the good news, maybe by the time we get there, the Proxima civilization has already fled. Speaking of this, LV Yongchang's face suddenly became a little strange, and their choice of escape is most likely the solar system. Fang Zhu, KO, Liang K, other scientists, Yongchang. This joke is not funny. Fang Zhu looked at LV Yongchang with a strange face. LV Yongchang looked at the people in front of him with strange expressions helplessly. I'm not a joke. Zero. Open the star map and show them. The holographic projection changed instantly, and images of several nearby star systems appeared beside him. The solar system, the Alpha Centauri system and the Ophiuchus system. The closest star to Proxima is the other two stars in the Alpha Centauri triple system, which is only 0.21 light years away. However, those two stars form a binary star system. According to Zero's latest observations, there are no planets suitable for life there. Second, it is the solar system. And finally, it is Barnard's star in the Ophiuchus galaxy. Unfortunately, Barnard's star also has no solid planets suitable for survival. So, LV Yongchang shrugged. Under normal circumstances, the Proxima people may already be on their way to the solar system. Fang Zhu's expression became more and more strange. So, we are still at a way process. It can be said that way. Thinking of the expression of the Proxima people after arriving in the solar system, LV Yongchang's mouth twitched slightly, and he said with a forced smile, of course, there is another possibility. Their observation methods are more advanced than ours. They discovered the abnormality of the sun earlier and chose a more distant star system as their target. However, this requires a higher level of technology. I don't think the Proxima civilization has such means. The central area of the Milky Way point, the artificial planet belonging to Sweeper 9527, quietly stayed in the universe point inside the planet, sir. The latest news came from the Orion Arm area. A report sounded, attracting the attention of Sweeper 9527. Speak. A simple syllable came out of his vocal organs. Sir, the star-eating device sent to the LHS-4C42Y star system has successfully completed its mission and is on its way back. Yes. How much energy did it absorb? Not much. A light curtain appeared in front of Sweeper 9527. He casually glanced at the data on the light curtain, and the originally cyan skin color suddenly deepened by 1 degree. That's all, he said in an extremely dissatisfied tone. Sir, that's just a yellow dwarf. It's good that the Star Devourer can absorb this energy. The subordinate's voice came to defend, unless the mother civilization's large mass energy conversion device is used. Otherwise, okay, of course I know this. Sweeper 9527 waved his tentacles unhappily. I don't have much of that thing. Do you think I'm crazy to use it to deal with a first level civilization and a yellow dwarf? I'm just making an analogy. The subordinate's voice came again. By the way, I remember there is a red dwarf next to the yellow dwarf. How is a Star Devourer over there? A faint light flashed on the external memory storage device of Sweeper 9527. Sir, it will take some time. The reaction inside the red dwarf is not intense enough. TSK. It's really a losing business. Sweeper 9527 said, a little depressed. The subordinate's voice sounded again. Sir, how about I help you choose a star with a larger mass? After the voice fell, another light curtain appeared in front of Sweeper 9527. Level 3 civilization? He stretched out his tentacles and slid the light curtain in boredom. The potential of civilization is good. It is estimated that it will enter level 4 civilization in another 50,000 years. Sir, do you want to take action against it? The subordinate whispered. It is in the Perseus spiral arm, far away from us, and there is no sign of pastoral activities there. Sweeper 9527 swiped the light curtain in front of him unhappily. No sign of pastoral activities? Then why should I bother? If it weren't for that damn pastoral two-dimensional creature hiding in the Orion arm, I wouldn't bother with those low-level bugs. Keep an eye on the Orion arm for me. Once you find the trace of that two-dimensional creature, report to me immediately. It won't last long if it is hit in the core by our dimensional weapon. Earth. Calendar year 2100. Proxima point in a giant disc-shaped building. In a room on the top floor of the building. Levy stood silently by the window, overlooking the scenery outside. As the leader of the rebels, after the uprising was successful, he took the seat he had always dreamed of, and became the leader of all the Proxima people. Of course, this group of Proxima people does not include the Proxima royal family Rex and the scientist Lyle. But for Levy, such a life has made him very satisfied. Outside the window, countless Meris and ordinary Proxima people are busy on the production line. They are trying to make their own escape starship. Ding. A crisp sound came from behind. Levy turned his head and saw that the door had opened a crack. Levy, the famous Lyle wants to see you. A familiar announcement came from the door. In order to show what he said about equality, anyone can call him by name, including Meris. Even his personal guards are composed of half Proxima and half Meris. The one who just issued the announcement was a Meris Lyle. He did not hide his hostility and asked in a deep voice, "Why did Lyle come to see me? Tell him that I don't want to see him, and let him leave immediately. Meris, get out of my way." With a low and firm voice, the door of the room opened with a bang. The man was wearing a standard black robe, and he pushed open the gate and the Meris guards who were blocking him with his strong limbs. You. Levy subconsciously took a step back and reached out to press the white button on the side. As long as he pressed the button, other guards would immediately come to deal with the strong Lyle. Calm down, Levy. Lyle's tone was a bit weirdly excited. I'm not here to fight with you. Then what are you doing here? Levy's breathing hole opened and closed rapidly. Don't forget the agreement we signed. You have no right to interfere with us. P.S. The previous chapter was wrong, but it doesn't affect reading. Chapter 260 We are the same kind. Levi's reaction was reflected in Lyle's visual organs. A few slight wrinkles appeared on the top of Lyle's thinking organs, but they were quickly smoothed out and dissipated. There was a hint of sarcasm in his tone. Levi, don't worry, the Academy of Sciences does not want to interfere with your lives, but, for the sake of being Proxima Centauri, I will tell you a piece of news. News? About the solar system. Seeing Levi's skeptical look, Lyle added lightly. Levi's breathing hole suddenly opened. What? His tone seemed particularly hurried. As the leader of the rebels, he naturally knew that the solar system was the escape target selected by the Academy of Sciences and the royal family, and it was also the best choice at present. Seeing Levi's anxious look, Lyle seemed a little more relaxed. He sat carelessly on a chair nearby, gently swinging his sturdy and short forelimbs. Relax, Levi, it's not a big deal. What happened to the solar system? Levi's 3 pairs of visual organs narrowed slightly, and his tone also revealed a bit of threat. If you keep playing tricks, I'll call the guards. As he said, Levi stretched out his forelimbs and pressed the white button on the side. Lyle's visual organs revealed a bit of fear. Although his physical fitness is better than most Proxima Centauri, he still thinks he can't stand up to a group of guards. Okay, I'll tell you. Lyle stood up from the chair helplessly and whispered a piece of news that shocked Levi. The solar system. I can't go there. What? Levi subconsciously held his breath and asked in a hoarse voice. Why? Lyle shrugged. The latest observation results of the Academy of Sciences, the main star of the solar system, has entered its final dying stage. A helium flash occurred a few days ago, and it is currently developing into a white dwarf. I heard from several observers that there are only a few gas giants and a few solid satellites left in the solar system. Levi, thinking organ on top of his head, was full of complex textures. When did it happen? Lyle was silent for a while, as if thinking. If I remember correctly, it should be a helium flash that happened 50 years ago. Why did you find it now? Levi clenched his fists and slammed them hard on the table in front of him. Bang. A loud noise came. Levi. Several short and powerful calls came from outside the door. What happened? Just as Levi was about to explain, Lyle suddenly smiled and said to him meaningfully, if I were you, I wouldn't explain to them now. Looking at the rounded arc on the skin on the top of Lyle's thinking organ, he suddenly swallowed the words on his lips. It's okay, don't worry. Very good. Lyle's smile seemed more mysterious. So, what is the reason that we found out about this news so late? Levi ignored Lyle's praise, stretched out his forelimbs, grabbed Lyle's black robe, and asked in a deep voice. Faced with Levi questioning, Lyle's breathing hole opened slightly and exhaled a long turbid breath. You should know the efficiency of the Academy of Sciences. Various documents and materials are piled up, and delaying the processing for 50 years is already considered fast. There are several scientific research projects proposed 300 years ago, and no one is willing to take over until now. Levi fell into silence. He knew Lyle didn't lie to him. The work efficiency of the Academy of Sciences and the royal family was extremely low. As the leader of the rebels, he knew this very well. I still remember the scene when I captured the incubation center in the royal family and the Academy of Sciences sent people to negotiate. That negotiation dragged on for 5 years. What are you going to do? Levi asked again after a moment of silence. Lyle did not answer immediately, but walked to the window and looked down at the hard-working Proxima people. The construction speed is really fast. If we had such a construction speed at the beginning, I might have been on the escape spaceship now. Levi ignored Lyle's sigh and just looked at him silently. Boring. Seeing that Levi ignored his words, Lyle opened his breathing hole again and blew out a breath of turbid air. I can't go to the solar system, so I can only change my destination. But, Levi said in a somewhat hurried tone, the distances of other habitable star systems are. Lyle turned away from the window, and the skin on the top of his thinking organ showed a half-smile expression. The distance is far, and the problem can be solved by reducing the number of escapees. Levi breath suddenly choked, and a series of fine bumps appeared on the top of his thinking organ instantly. No, this is impossible. Lyle interrupted Levi words directly. Okay, there are no outsiders here. You should know in your heart that these spaceships built below are not enough for everyone to escape from Proxima, right, Levy? Fell silent. Yes, he knew it better than anyone else. This large construction plan was proposed by him. Because the starship manufacturing technology was in the hands of the Academy of Sciences, he also negotiated with the Academy of Sciences at that time. After obtaining the relevant technology, he mobilized everyone to build their own starship together. He still remembered the words he used to mobilize everyone. Since the Academy of Sciences and the royal family are not going to take us to escape, then we will build our own escape starship. I promise everyone that everyone can board the escape starship to the solar system. Even Maris will have his own seat. Of course, after the mobilization, he soon realized his naivety. Not to mention leading everyone to escape. Conservatively estimated that, even if all Proxima people build starships day and night, the best result is to take away about 500,000 Proxima people. This obviously violated his own words of promise. Thinking of the impact caused by the announcement of the situation, he made a prompt decision to suppress the situation and strictly prohibited the informed personnel from revealing the information to the outside world. The purpose of doing this is very simple. In order to allow all Proxima people to complete their work with peace of mind. At this critical moment, no matter what accidents occur, the number of people who escape in the end will be reduced. As for the final escape candidate, Levy already has his own answer in his heart. In any case, let the Proxima people take the escape ship first. In other words, in his mind, the Maris once again became disposable tools. So, Levy, we are the same kind. Lyle's voice came from the side. We are all the same. Chapter 261. The importance of Levy. Levy didn't respond to Lyle's words. He turned to look at the window on the side, silently looking at the hard-working Proxima Centauri people below. Think about it. Lyle walked up to Levy and patted him on the shoulder. Join us. The Academy of Sciences can ensure the safety of you and your family, and even your friends can enter the escape starship as soon as possible. Academy of Sciences, get out. Levy shouted angrily, interrupting Lyle's unfinished words. Lyle obviously did not expect Levy's reaction. He was stunned. What? I said, get out. Levy's tone became more and more violent. At the same time, he pressed the white button next to him, and a piercing alarm sounded outside the door. Bang. Almost at the same time, the door was pushed open, and more than 10 guards filed in, looking at Lyle as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Hehe. Lyle came back to his senses. Not only was he not angry at all, but he chuckled softly. I'm sure you'll come to your senses, Levy. We are the same kind. I'm waiting for you to come to me. Proxima Central Academy of Sciences. A man in black robes, Lyle, came to a closed door with a hurried expression. He raised his short forelimbs and gently knocked on the door in front of him. A crisp and ethereal sound sounded from the tapping. Who, dear Lord Augustus? It's me, Natus. No response. But the closed door quietly opened. An old Lyle staggered out of the door. His slightly cloudy visual organs glanced at Lyle in front of him and asked expressionlessly, Natus, has the mission been completed? Upon hearing Augustus's question, Natus quickly and respectfully replied, Your Excellency Augustus, the mission has been completed. Levy's reaction was exactly as you said. He was a little angry at our proposal. A gleam flashed in the eyes of the old Augustus. Well done. I believe that he will come to us in a short time. Natus raised his head and cast a doubtful look at Augustus. Sir Augustus, why do you pay so much attention to an ordinary Proxima Centauri with a low status? Under the focus of high energy laser weapons, as long as we give an order, they will not have any reaction time. When the time comes, wouldn't it be great if we took over those escape ships? Augustus slowly shook his head. Levy is different. He plays a big role in my subsequent plans. Hearing this, Natus's eyes changed slightly. He recalled some rumors in the Academy of Sciences during this time. Your Excellency Augustus, is it because of the solar system fleet? He asked cautiously. Aha. For a moment, Augustus' stern eyes glared at Natus in front of him. How do you know this? Natus's breathing holes opened and closed rapidly, and a small pimple appeared on the skin on the top of his thinking organ. I heard that, Augustus. slowly closed his visual organs, opened his breathing holes and let out a long sigh of relief. Forget it. It's okay if you know this. Is there really a solar system fleet? Natus lowered his voice and asked in horror, seeing Augustus nodding. Natus was even more frightened. Moreover, according to the continuous observation of observers, they are coming towards us at 10% of the speed of light. Augustus dropped a bombshell lightly. What? Natus felt like a pair of invisible hands were choking his neck. He struggled for a long time and was unable to utter a complete sentence. Augustus turned and walked into the room. Follow me. Watching Augustus retreating back, Natus hurriedly followed. According to predictions, they will reach the outer reaches of Proxima Centauri in 50 years. Augustus said softly as he reached out to open a monitor. There was deep darkness in the monitor, but in the endless darkness, there is a pixel with a slightly strange color. This is their fleet. Augustus reached out and tapped the pixel and said in a deep voice, "Then, what should we do?" Nart's tone was full of panic. "Escape in advance." A cold light flashed in August's visual organs. "War is inevitable." Before Natus could speak, he explained on his own. "Our main star is expected to have a lifespan of 120 years. It's ridiculous to say that the creation of that advanced civilization actually allowed a red dwarf star to complete its extremely long life course in just 190 years. As he said that, Augustus shook his head. "In 120 years, we simply can't build an escape starship that can carry enough people. Even if we escape briefly, our civilization will eventually perish. All we are doing is hanging on." However, the emergence of the solar system fleet changed this ending. August's rapid breathing revealed his inner agitation. "We don't have to rush to escape. Relying on our home planet and building defenses, as long as we defeat them and capture their spaceship, we can take more people away. Our civilization can continue to exist in this universe." Narts was silent for a moment, then asked softly, "But what if we didn't fight?" August opened his breathing hole and blew out a mouthful of hot exhaust gas. "Impossible. Even if their technological level is higher than ours, after a 4.2 light-year interstellar journey, their fleet will definitely not have many resources left, and we, with the resource advantage of our home planet, can drag them to death, even if we force them to die. What's more, from the intelligence sent back by the detector at that time, it can be seen that their technological level is far lower than ours." Narts did not speak, but nodded silently. He was not qualified to speak on matters of this level. August turned his head and glanced at Narts. "This is the time for Levy to play his role." "What?" Narts was stunned. His brain obviously did not keep up with the speed of Augustus's topic jump. August did not care about Narts's reaction. So far, only Levy can make those Proxima and Meris work wholeheartedly. That's why Levy plays a big role in winning this war. He must join us. Let those Proxima and Meris transform spacecraft for us and build defense measures. Then push them onto the battlefield to serve as cannon fodder. There is no better solution than this." August's voice continued to echo in the empty room. Chapter 262. Ring Planet Defense Project. Earth calendar year 2105. Looking at the vast white field outside the window, Levy sighed deeply. "Aquitus, it's getting colder." He did not turn his head and said softly to himself, "Such an environment has greatly affected our starship manufacturing progress." Sitting on a large chair in the room was a female Proxima Centauri. Hearing Levy sigh, she slowly stood up from the chair and walked to the window. "Yes, father, the condition of the main star is getting worse and worse. Starting from the past 2 years, bad weather has begun to affect our work progress. Many Proxima people even began to protest against the hard work day after day." "Damn," Levy roared in a low voice with a gloomy look. "They are building an escape spaceship for themselves. If they don't want to work, they can just find a quiet corner and wait to die." "Father." Aquitus looked at Levy in surprise. Obviously, she didn't expect her father to say such words. "If this continues, the number of people who can successfully leave in the end will probably be reduced." As he spoke, Levy closed his 3 pairs of eyes in pain. "Maybe I should talk to them." He spoke so softly that Aquitus who was standing next to him, didn't hear him clearly. What? Aquitus was stunned and cast a doubtful look at his father beside him. Levy didn't speak, just looked out the window at the huge disc-shaped spaceships. The construction progress of each spacecraft is different. The progress is fast. 80% of the construction work of the spacecraft has been completed. As for the slow progress, basically only one shell has been completed. While Levy opened his breathing hole and sighed deeply. Aquitus, go back. Hearing this, Aquitus opened his mouth slightly, wanting to say something more, but when the words reached his lips, they turned into a gentle sigh. Okay, father. After saying that, she turned and walked towards the door. The moment she reached out to open the door, she suddenly turned around, with a hint of worry in her 3 pairs of eyes. Father, are you really okay? Hearing Aquitus's voice, Levy couldn't help but tremble slightly. He was silent for a while and looked away from the window. I'm fine, Aquitus, don't worry, I will take you away from this terrible planet. Upon hearing this, Aquitus's thinking organ revealed a graceful arc. I believe in you. After saying that, she turned and left the room. The sound of the door closing echoed in Levy's ears, and gradually, his eyes gradually became firmer. A few days later, Proxima Central Academy of Sciences. Levy, you're finally here. The moment he saw Levy, Nartz's 6 eyes suddenly lit up. Good guy, let him wait. Originally, he thought it would only take a few days for Levy to wake up. As a result, he had to wait for 5 years at the Central Academy of Sciences. 5 years. Do you know how he spent these 5 years? Although his heart was turbulent, Nartis still maintained his demeanor as much as possible. How do you think about it, Levy? Nartis showed a meaningful smile to Levy. Levy was silent for a moment and nodded slightly. You're right. I join you. However, I agreed in advance to ensure the safety of people around me. Levy's breathing was very rapid. There is also a quota for landing on the spaceship. I need. Narts waved his hand and said lightly, don't worry, we will not go back on our promise to you. 10 places. The specific list is up to you to choose. Only 10? Levy's brows suddenly frowned. So few. Nartus, who was dressed in black robes, looked at Levy with a condescending look. What else? Do you know how much it costs to travel to farther star systems? 10 spots is already the biggest reward for you. Levy breathing became more rapid, and his breathing holes opened and closed rapidly, but he struggled to hold back a sentence. What do you want me to do? Very well, come with me to see Mr. Augustus first. The smile in Nartus's eyes became more obvious. He will tell you the next arrangements. After saying that, Narts turned and walked towards the inside of the Academy of Sciences. Looking at Nartus's back, Levy suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, he felt like a different person. He shook his head silently, and after shaking off the strange feelings from his thinking organ, he took steps to keep up with Nartus Earth calendar year 2130. There are still 16 years until the human fleet arrives at Proxima Centauri. At this time, Proxima b has been covered by a thick layer of snow and ice. The originally colorful Proxima Centauri b has become a white planet. Since the news of the upcoming arrival of the solar system fleet spread, and with Levy order, countless Proxima Centaurian Meras began spacecraft modification plans and planetary defense project construction plans. The spaceship transformation plan, as the name suggests, is to transform the original escape spacecraft into a spaceship suitable for combat. The construction plan of the Ring Planet Defense Project consists of countless space-based electromagnetic guns and space-based high-energy laser weapons. These weapons transformed Proxima b into a hedgehog, covered with thorns. The most important project in the entire project is the 12 land-based giant high-energy laser cannons. Thanks to the extremely low temperature and dense atmosphere on the surface of Proxima b at this time, the heat dissipation problem of laser weapons has been well solved. In addition, it is placed in the mother planet, so there is basically no need to worry about any energy supply problems. Therefore, the 12 giant laser cannons built around the equator of Proxima b have become the killer of Proxima civilization. At the same time, they began to build underground projects. This can not only avoid the attack from the solar system fleet, but also block the cold air from the outside. In the underground city, Augustus sent a communication request to Levy. Levy, How is the progress of the defense project facing Augustus, who is in charge of the entire Proxima civilization? Levy respectfully placed his hands on the top of the thinking organ. Respected Sir Augustus, the underground city has been built. According to the current progress, it will take about 15 years for the ring planet defense project to be fully completed. On the screen, Augustus's thinking organ showed no expression. Too slow. 10 years. I'll give you 10 years. No matter what you do, I want to see the complete defense project in 10 years. Then, welcome to the war. Chapter 263 Arrival, Awakening. Earth Calendar 2146.6.7 Outskirts of the Proxima Centauri galaxy. Point it is 0.01 light years away from Proxima Centauri. Point a fleet floated towards Proxima Centauri like a ghost. Point this is a human fleet that spans 4.22 light years and comes from afar as early as 5 years ago. The human fleet completed the steering and deceleration work under the control of Zero, and shut down all hull propulsion devices and high-power radio facilities after a series of cool maneuvers. The entire fleet made a small circle, changed direction, and relied on inertia to drift toward its destination. Point this is the traveling mode designed by Yongchang himself. Point when it is unclear whether the Proxima Centauri civilization has observed the movements of its own fleet. This method of travel is undoubtedly the safest. Point it is also the most insidious. The war has begun the moment the human fleet shuts down its engines. Just as Yongchang expected, Proxima Centauri was in chaos at this time. Point the reason is naturally very simple. On the eve of the war, I lost the position of the enemy ship 5 years ago. Tell me, why did that solar system fleet disappear under our noses? The elderly August shouted angrily at several observers. We don't know either. An observer took courage and whispered, we were still targeting them some time ago. It happened very suddenly. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared from our detection equipment. Some time ago. August's anger became stronger. He opened his breathing holes vigorously and breathed in the air. How long ago was it? Tell me clearly. A month ago. The observer kept saying, just a month ago, our radio telescope could still receive their radio signals. A month ago. Augustus couldn't help but froze when he heard this. Then, why are you saying it now? As he spoke, he raised his short and thick forelimbs, preparing to hit the observer in front of him. We reported the relevant situation at the time, but you only found out today. The observer subconsciously closed his eyes and explained loudly. Point hearing this, August took a deep breath. Point what is this? For the first time, he experienced the work efficiency problem of the Academy of Sciences, thinking that in the past month, the solar system fleet had quietly changed its position. An unprecedented sense of dizziness instantly rushed into his thinking organ. Turn on all the detection equipment and scan the area where the fleet disappeared. Augustus gritted his teeth and said, you must find that solar system fleet for me. Although he said this, his heart was already half cold. Point as Chief Lyle, he knows very well that with their technology, they will never find a fleet in the universe that deliberately hides itself outskirts of Proxima Centauri. Point as the fleet arrived at the predetermined location, countless lights suddenly lit up inside the Earth. The destination has been reached. Executing wake-up procedure. Home ship number 1, starting to wake up. A series of Chinese characters flashed across the giant holographic image in the command center. The wake-up procedure has begun. His heavy eyelids were suddenly opened by something. Point a bright white light lit up in front of my eyes. A robotic arm. Where am I? So sleepy. Slightly confused thoughts emerged in my mind. Point an obvious sense of mental stagnation hindered his thinking. The pupil light reflex is in good condition. Captain Zaozuji, can you hear me? A familiar call sounded in my ears. Hearing his name, Zaozuji struggled to open his heavy eyelids. Here, it is a extremely hoarse voice startled him. Point he couldn't believe it was his own voice. Point as soon as the words were spoken, an extremely sour feeling came from the trachea and lungs. Cough, cough, cough. While coughing hard, he asked the question that was lingering in his heart. Where am I? Zero's avatar appeared in front of him instantly. Captain Zaozuji, congratulations on your successful awakening. It is now 2146.6.7 in the Earth's calendar, and we are located 0.01 light years away from Proxima Centauri. Zao Ziji subconsciously held his breath. 2146. Proxima Centauri, word after word struck his brain, which had been slow to react due to long periods of hibernation. Here, after he stopped coughing, he turned around and looked. The familiar hibernation cabin, the familiar starship cabin, and the familiar coughing sound. There were many people around him who looked as confused as him. He took a cursory glance and found that most of them were familiar companions. Zao Ziji struggled hard and tried to climb out of the hibernation cabin. Captain Zao Ziji, please wait a moment. Zero's avatar said again. Long term hibernation causes your body to become weaker, which is normal. As he spoke, a robot placed a packaging bag in front of him. Is this? Zao Ziji's eyes showed some doubts. Nutritional solution can help you quickly recover your physical strength. You should use it. Zero quickly explained. Gilu, a strong feeling of hunger came from the abdomen. Zao Ziji grabbed the package in front of him with trembling hands, opened the seal with force, and sucked it with the help of the straw structure on the bag. The effect of the high concentration nutrient solution was immediate. Zao Ziji, who originally felt very weak, had the strength to climb out of the hibernation cabin in just a few minutes, floating in the air. Zao Ziji looked at the familiar cabin in front of him, and his eyes showed a little confusion for a while. What should he do now? Captain Zao Ziji, please follow me. The robot next to him made a slight reminder at the same time. A holographic picture appeared in front of him. This is your schedule for the next week. In order for you to recover your physical strength as soon as possible and cope with the next war, you need to undergo a week of rehabilitation training. Looking at the dense schedule in front of him and listening to the explanation of the robot around him, Zao Ziji suddenly became excited. War. The war is about to begin. Proxima civilization. Here we come. Just as Zao Ziji was shouting in his heart, the voice of the robot pulled him out of his turbulent inner world. Captain Zao Ziji, please follow me. Next, you need to take a shower and change clothes. I will take you for a physical examination in 30 minutes. 1 hour later, Zao Ziji. Similar scenes occurred in every corner of Homeland Number 1. In order to cope with the next war, Zero awakened all scientists and starship pilots according to the preset program. In the command center of Earth, LV Yongchang silently looked at the faintly glowing star in front of him. Proxima Centauri 0.01 light years, 632 AU, away. The war has begun. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264 First Fleet Command. A week later, after a week of rest and exercise, the bodies of all scientific researchers and starship pilots have returned to their previous state. Inside the Earth Command Center, Lu Yongchang sat on the highest podium of the command center, frowning and looking at the holographic image in front of him. In the holographic projection, the information of a famous starship pilot was clearly presented in front of him. Yes. The problem before him was exactly the point of making decisions before the war. This is the first time human civilization has conducted interstellar combat without any previous experience or assume for reference. Lu Yongchang can only select candidates based on battlefield simulation results and actual combat simulation results. Of course, it is said to be an actual combat simulation, but it is actually work like hitting meteorites in an asteroid belt. They don't have the resources or time to conduct a real Star Wars exercise. As for why you didn't choose it beforehand, the reason is naturally very simple. During the hibernation journey that lasts for hundreds of years, who knows what accidents may occur. For example, according to Zero's report, there was an unlucky man in the Home Number 1 ship. The hibernation cabin was damaged several times for no reason. Although the robot was repaired in time, it still caused great damage to his body functions. If nothing else happens, he will have to be an ordinary person for the rest of his life. Lu Yongchang frowned and looked at the holographic projection in front of him. Suddenly, his hand that kept sliding in the air stopped. 0. Pull up his details. The rapidly flipping holographic projection suddenly stopped. Point later, the resume of a starship pilot was retrieved and presented to him. Expand. Titan's resume. Yongchang's eyes swept across and locked on part of the resume at the first time. A long time. Yongchang nodded slightly. Yes, just him. Home is a ship. Recovery room. Zhao Ziji and Gao Yang were sweating profusely and using various equipment to restore their physical fitness. Captain Zhao Ziji, I have your latest appointment information. Please check it. Zero's voice suddenly sounded, and a holographic projection also appeared next to the two of them. Call Zhao. Ziji slowly released the thruster made of springs, unfastened the electromagnetic buckle on the chair, stood up, and walked towards the holographic projection next to him. While wiping his sweat, Ziji, how are you? Which fleet have you been assigned to? Gao Yang also put down the exercise equipment in his hands and cast a curious look at Zhao Ziji. The 250 Golden Crow battleships are divided into 4 arrays. Each array consists of 60 battleships. The remaining 10 battleships will surround the Earth and be responsible for guarding the mothership. In fact, in Zhao Ziji's opinion, the protection provided by these 10 battleships is completely dispensable. Although the size of the flagship allows the enemy to clearly recognize that it is the flagship of human civilization, if they want to carry out a decapitation operation, haha, the powerful firepower equipped on the flagship will teach them how to behave in an instant. Do you really think that the extra volume is due to vegetarianism? Of course, this is based on the situation that the strength of the two parties is almost the same. If the opponent is a higher civilization that far exceeds our own, then even adding the 10 Golden Crow battleships may not change the battlefield situation. According to his idea, all the Golden Crow battleships should be sent to the front line, and even the flagship must participate in the battle when necessary. Ziji, Gao Yang's voice came again, interrupting Zhao Ziji's thoughts. He responded and looked at the holographic image in front of him. The camera in the recovery room then moved to his face. Identity authentication successful. A line of small Chinese characters flashed by, and his appointment information suddenly appeared on the holographic image. Fuck, Zhao Ziji stared blankly at the holographic projection in front of him and couldn't help but let out an exclamation. What the hell are you doing? Gao Yang was intrigued by Zhao Ziji's reaction. He quickly reached out and unlatched the electromagnetic buckle on the chair, stood up and walked towards Zhao Ziji. Isn't it just an appointment message? Is there any need to be so surprised? Let me guess, you should be in the first fleet. With your simulation class results, you should be able to. As he spoke, Gao Yang looked towards the holographic projection in front of Zhao Ziji. Fuck, an exclamation sounded in the recovery room, causing everyone nearby to cast doubtful glances. Ah, you the fleet commander? Gao Yang's exclamations continued to echo in the recovery room. Ahem. It's the commander of the first fleet. The commander-in-chief of the fleet is Professor Lu. Feeling the burning eyes of the people around him, Zhao Ziji hurriedly explained. That's also the commander of the fleet. Gao Yang's face was full of excitement. And he's also the commander of the first fleet. Ziji, as long as you are rich and noble, don't forget each other. As he said that, he didn't dislike the greasy sweat on Zhao Ziji's body and stretched out his hand to hug Zhao Ziji's arm. The main reason is that there are too many people around to watch the fun. Otherwise, he would have to have a thigh-hugging scene. Zhao Ziji glanced around and looked at the increasingly fiery eyes of everyone around him. He quickly pulled his arm out of Gao Yang's arms. Okay, don't bother me with this. Your appointment has also come down. Speaking of this, Zhao Ziji stretched out his hand and swiped the holographic projection in front of him to the bottom. Take a look for yourself. Hearing the news of his appointment, Gao Yang immediately let go of his hand and turned to look at the holographic image beside him. Assist Captain Zhao Ziji in completing the fleet command work. Gao Yang slid the projection in front of him back and forth, and after confirming that there was no redundant information, he turned his head and looked at his teammates in confusion. What position is this? Zhao Ziggy was silent for a while and whispered back, "Secretary? Or errand runner? Anyway, it's not the deputy captain, Gayo." Yang's mouth twitched suddenly and he took a deep breath. "Secretary. Secretary is not bad. At least better than a private, Zao." Ziggy laughed dumbly, stretched out his hand and patted his teammate on the shoulder. "Don't worry, the war is about to start. Isn't it easy to get credit? That makes sense." Gao Yang nodded vigorously. He turned his head to look at the dim star outside the porthole, and the light in his eyes became stronger. "Captain Zao Ziggy, please report to the Earth immediately." Zero's voice interrupted the conversation between the two. "Let's go." Hearing the reminder, Zao Ziggy took a deep breath, greeted his companions, and walked towards the door of the rehabilitation room with a firm gaze. Along the way, there were naturally envious eyes. He became the fleet commander of the First Fleet in his first interstellar war. It can be said that, as long as he doesn't make any big mistakes, his future is bright. Chapter 265 Declaration of War. The fleet drifted again in endless darkness for a week. The Proxima Centauri civilization spent another week of fear. 2146.6.21 .0 Help me connect all starships. Lu Yongchang, who was sitting in the command center, took a deep breath and turned on the long-distance communication equipment in front of him. After confirming that the communication equipment was working properly, he coughed slightly and then spoke. "Hello, fellow citizens. I am the commander-in-chief of the fleet, Lu Yongchang, in the First Fleet, Golden Crow, battleship. Bei Yixuan sat in the captain's seat with a solemn expression, silently feeling the heavy atmosphere in the cab. "White team, the war is about to begin. Are you afraid, Han?" Fan's faint voice came from the side. Bei Yixuan turned to look at his teammates sitting in the vice captain's seat. Like Han Fan, Zaiwanai's eyes were also full of uneasiness. He was silent for a moment and nodded slightly. "Afraid, of course, Han." Fan opened his mouth and was about to say something, but was interrupted by Bei Yixuan's next words. "I'm afraid that I will die on the battlefield, and I'm afraid that you will die in front of me because of an accident. But more than these, I'm more afraid of the demise of human civilization, Han." Fan did not speak, but quietly listened to his captain's words. Bei Yixuan's voice continued. "Therefore, I will not avoid this war, even if I only have the last few days of my life. I hope that the glory of mankind will last forever." There was a bit of excitement in Han Fan's eyes. He stretched out his hand and clenched his fist and repeated in a low voice, "Humanity, glory will last forever." On the side, a slightly helpless smile appeared on Zaiwanai's face. "Wanai, what about you?" Han Fan turned to look at his teammates and asked softly. "Me." Zaiwanai laughed dumbly. "Why do you think I'm sitting on this Golden Crow battleship, Captain? Long distance communication from Earth." A report interrupted the conversation between the three. "Connected," Bei Yixuan said in a deep voice. Cough. There was a cough. A trace of surprise flashed in Bei Yixuan's eyes. He recognized it. It was Professor Lu's voice. "We are about to head to the battlefield. This is the first interstellar war of human civilization and the most important war. If we win, human civilization can continue to survive in the universe. If you lose, there's no need for me to tell you the result. Here, I declare war on Proxima Centauri civilization. Everyone, the time has come to make great achievements and honor our ancestors. Fleet, set sail. May the glory of mankind last forever." Over distance, communication is automatically cut off. In the cab, the heavy atmosphere was swept away. "What the professor said is really good." Zaiwanai's sigh came from the side. Bei Yixuan turned his head and cast a doubtful look at her. Zaiwanai didn't speak. She just pursed her lips to the side. Bei Yixuan looked in the direction she pointed out. The driver, who originally looked gloomy, now had a red face. He could even hear their whispered discussions. Nothing more than a few big characters honor your ancestors and make great achievements, feeling the completely different atmosphere from the beginning. Bei Yixuan chuckled and turned to look at the holographic projection in front of him. The tails of 501 starships lit up dimly at the same time. After 5 years, The Hall thruster is activated again. In order to prevent the Proxima Centauri civilization from discovering its traces, the power of the Hall thruster was reduced to the minimum point. The expedition fleet, consisting of 250 Teoti, 250 Golden Crow, and 1 Earth, left the original orbit with the help of weak thrust and silently sailed in another direction. The remaining Teoti ship and Homeland ship were left behind. 0.01 light years is considered a very safe distance for a first level civilization. The expedition fleet's goal is an Area 1 astronomical unit (AU) away from Proxima Centauri. Even though it is only 1 astronomical unit (AU), this is still an extremely far distance for Proxima Centauri B. Proxima Centauri B is 7 million kilometers away from Proxima Centauri. When converted, it is only 0.047 astronomical units (AU). Therefore, in a certain sense, approaching Proxima Centauri means approaching Proxima Centauri B. 2147.1.6 more than half a year later, the expedition fleet finally touched the target area. Earth Command Center Yongchang stood by the porthole, looking at Proxima Centauri, which was much brighter than before. Next to the red dwarf star, there is a slightly dim light spot. That was Proxima B, their target point. Proxima Centauri, left, and Proxima Centauri B, right, 1 AU away under the light of the main star. Proxima Centauri B exudes crystal light. It can be clearly seen through optical telescopes that, similar to the Earth, the surface of Proxima Centauri is also extremely rich in water resources. Alarm. Alarm. The sudden siren made everyone's nerves tense. High intensity electromagnetic wave signal detected. A bright red alert appeared on the giant holographic projection directly in front of the command center. Yongchang's expression darkened, and he quickly returned to his seat. He stretched out his hand and dragged the holographic projection in front of him, separating the detected active electromagnetic wave signal from various messy electromagnetic signals. 0. What does this signal mean, LV? Yongchang asked in a deep voice. With the Proxima dictionary, they can fully interpret the captured Proxima signal. Soon, 0 gave his answer. Professor, the signal does not contain information. It is more like an active detection method, similar to our active detection radar, but the frequency band is slightly different. Hearing this, Yongchang's face sank. How does our radar absorbing coating work on it? Active detection methods have advantages and disadvantages. The advantages that it can detect surrounding enemy targets in real time and respond to the upcoming attack in advance. The disadvantages that once it is turned on, while releasing high power electromagnetic waves, it also exposes itself to the opposite side sight. Therefore, the Earth fleet has not yet turned on the active detection method in order to prevent being discovered by the Proxima civilization. But the Proxima civilization on the mother planet is different from the Earth civilization. They are destined not to hide their existence. Therefore, they can use high power detection equipment to search for Earth civilization all day long. That is why, once the radar absorbing coating on the outer layer of the starship does not absorb it well, that means that the human fleet at this time has been completely exposed to the sight of the Proxima civilization. Everyone present naturally knows this. Therefore, when LV Yongchang asked this question, everyone reached out to fasten their seatbelts and prepared for emergency maneuvers and responses. The absorption effect is good. Zero's voice was as flat as ever. According to estimates, we have a slightly larger asteroid in the detection equipment on the opposite side. It's about the same as the asteroid next to us. LV Yongchang subconsciously turned his head and looked out the porthole. An asteroid with a diameter of more than 100 meters was swaying around the fleet. Zero's words made everyone feel relieved. LV Yongchang reached out and wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said softly, everyone, since we haven't been discovered, we should also work. Let's give our neighbors a little surprise. As soon as the voice fell, Zhao Ziji on the side had already pressed the long distance communication button. First fleet, everyone listens. Lock Proxima B immediately, like Zaozuji, the commanders of the other 3 fleets also quickly issued combat orders as the order was issued. Zero quickly sent the ballistic prediction trajectory and Proxima B's running trajectory to the onboard computer of each Golden Crow battleship point. A few seconds later, the response came. First Fleet, the locking mission has been completed. Second Fleet, seeing that the 4 fleets had completed the target locking, LV Yongchang's eyes showed a hint of cruelty, and he shouted, "Fire!" The moment the voice fell, countless flames spit out from the electromagnetic gun barrels of 250 Golden Crow battleships. The energy generated by the fusion engine accelerated the projectile in the barrel to S in a very short time. After the projectile was fired, it flew straight to Proxima B, which is 0.95 AU away. These projectiles wrapped with macronuclear bombs will arrive above Proxima B in 6.57 hours. 0. Change the direction of the fleet immediately. After the attack was launched, Lu Yongchang immediately shouted, "Pay attention to the power of the whole thruster." Got it, Professor. Under Zero's control, the fleet began to turn slowly, like a ghost, drifting in another direction. PS. In order to avoid plot jams, this chapter has been increased. Chapter 266, a gift from thousands of miles away. Proxima B. Central Academy of Sciences. Augustus, wearing a unique black robe, paced back and forth in the observation room. What's the result? Seeing an observer stand up, Augustus quickly cast an inquiring look at the observer. Have you found any traces of the solar system civilization? Facing Augustus's burning gaze, the observer shook his head tremblingly. Seeing this, Augustus's aura was suppressed again. 5 years. It took 5 years to search. Augustus opened his breathing hole, exhaled a breath of hot air, stretched out his short and dry forelimbs, and slapped the detection equipment in front of him fiercely. Not even a hair of the solar system fleet was found. The observer did not dare to speak, but silently stepped back a few steps, and sat back in the chair again. Sir Augustus, is it possible that the solar system fleet has left? Nards asked cautiously on the side. Augustus turned around suddenly, and 6 eyes stared at Nards in front of him. Nards, do you think this is possible? They gave up the habitable star system in front of them, and went to find Ross 154, 8.24 light years away. That's nearly twice the distance. Nards was speechless for a moment. Yes, unless the solar system civilization's brain was stuck in the door, it would be impossible to give up a piece of fat meat in hand. According to their hundreds of years of observation, within a 10 light year range, in addition to the solar system 4.22 light years away, there are only solid planets suitable for habitation in the Ross 154 star system. 8.24 light years away. Ross 154, with Proxima B as the origin. The atmosphere in the observation room was so heavy that it seemed to squeeze out water. Continue to detect. August voice broke the heavy atmosphere in the observation room. Use the optical telescope for me too, since electromagnetic waves can't detect them. Use your eyes to pull them out little by little. After the voice fell, Augustus turned and walked towards the door of the observation room. Watching Augustus' back gradually disappear at the door, Nault slightly opened his breathing hole and breathed a sigh of relief. He looked at several observers beside him. Everyone saw bitterness and helplessness in each other's eyes. Just as Nault was about to say something, a rapid and high-pitched alarm sounded in the Central Academy of Sciences. At the same time, countless white warning lights lit up. Nault couldn't help but stand there. The observer's sharp shout suppressed the high-pitched alarm. Enemy attack. Enemy attack. A few minutes ago. There are a large number of planetary defense facilities distributed in the synchronous orbit of Proxima B. Laser cannons, electromagnetic cannons and various active detection equipment form a dense defense network outside Proxima B. Suddenly, a large number of active detection devices issued an alarm to Proxima B. The reason is simple. The electromagnetic wave signal sent back showed that a large number of unidentified objects moving at high speed suddenly appeared 120,000 kilometers ahead. Damn it, what's going on? August voice rang out again. He moved his slightly dry lower limbs and returned to the observation room again. Sir Augustus, the active detection equipment shows that a group of high-speed moving unidentified objects have appeared 120,000 kilometers away from us. Hearing this, Augustus' heart sank. Here it comes. Is it the solar fleet? Augustus asked hurriedly. As long as the location of the enemy fleet is found, this war will be much easier. It doesn't look like it. The data displayed by the detection equipment is a bit strange. Could it be wrong? Nolts looked at the display on the side and said in confusion. Not an enemy ship. Suddenly, a fatal thought flashed through Augustus' mind. He suddenly widened his 3 pairs of eyes, rushed forward and pushed Nolts, who was blocking the way, away. When he saw the data displayed on the display, his 6 eyes showed a strong sense of horror. Quick! Prepare to intercept. That's a projectile fired by an electromagnetic cannon. He then glared at Nolts and a group of observers beside him. Damn it, no one noticed such an obvious feature. At a speed of 100,000 kilometers, it only took 20 seconds to cross the 120,000 kilometers point. Thinking that they had just wasted nearly 10 seconds of interception time, Augustus was furious. Time was limited, and he had no time to reprimand everyone, so he reached out and pressed the white emergency button on the side. Quick, start the automatic interception program. We must not let these projectiles attack our planetary defense equipment. The moment the white button was pressed, a radio command was sent from the Central Academy of Sciences to the planetary defense facilities in the synchronous orbit. The next second, under the control of the preset program of the central computer, the electromagnetic cannon and laser cannon in the corresponding area began to charge. At this time, a full 12 seconds had passed since the discovery of this batch of projectiles. The first batch of gifts sent by the human expedition fleet crossed thousands of mountains and rivers and arrived 48,000 kilometers away from Proxima b. 1 second later, the interception weapon was fully charged. The distance between the projectile and Proxima b. 42,000 kilometers. Under the control of the central computer, the laser cannon and electromagnetic cannon instantly poured out huge firepower forward. The short laser beam strikes the target first. In just an instant, under the power of the high energy laser beam, the electromagnetic gun pellet melted instantly, revealing the miniature nuclear bomb wrapped in it. Boom! A burst of fire appeared outside Proxima b. Like a signal, with the laser beams firing back and forth and the precise attacks of electromagnetic cannon projectiles. Explosions of fire appeared one after another on the periphery of the planet. Suddenly, a projectile broke through the layers of blockade, and like a warrior, it entered the dense planet-circling defense facilities. This fish that slipped through the net slammed into a high-energy laser cannon. The huge impact instantly activated the macronuclear bomb inside the projectile. Boom! This time, the flames of the explosion appeared in the planet-circling defense facility. Because there is no atmosphere, the explosion of the macronuclear bomb did not cause a shockwave, and the impact on the surroundings was not very large. But no matter what, the laser cannon that was directly hit completely became space junk. The disappearance of a laser cannon created a small hole in the originally extremely dense defense network. A chain reaction ensues. Boom, boom, boom. Continuous explosions of fire appeared on the defense network of the synchronous orbit. Laser cannons and electromagnetic cannons turned into endless debris under the attack. Several more projectiles quietly passed through the defense network and rushed straight towards the surface of Proxima b. Chapter 267. Levy, you have changed. Levy, wearing a winter coat, stood alone on the surface of Proxima Centauri, looking up at the sky silently. It was night. In the cloudless night sky, a little dim flash could be seen sporadically. He knew that it was the fire from the planetary defense network intercepting the electromagnetic cannon projectile. There was a rustling sound behind him, and a familiar shout followed. Father, Levy. Expression moved slightly, and he turned around and looked behind him. Aquitus walked out of the hut in front of him wearing a tight winter coat. That was the entrance to the underground city. What's wrong, Aquitus? Levy waved to his daughter and asked softly. Aquitus walked quickly to her father's side. Like her father, she also raised her head to look at the dim firelight that appeared and disappeared in the sky. After a long time, she asked softly, Father, I heard that the solar system fleet launched an attack on us. Levy, was speechless for a moment. This news is still blocked. This is to avoid unnecessary panic. But as his daughter, Aquitas naturally has many ways to get this information. Levy opened his breathing hole and exhaled a deep breath of hot air. The water vapor and the exhaust gas condensed quickly, forming a thick white fog in the air. Yes, he lowered his eyes slightly and said softly, Aquitas. Fell into silence. The atmosphere between the two became stiff. So, what should we do? After a long silence, Aquitas broke the silence softly. Levy subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. He looked at the night sky above his head helplessly. At some point, a dark cloud floated over and covered the faint fire above. At least now, we should stay in the underground city. After we hear the news from the Academy of Sciences, it will be our turn to drive the spacecraft to participate in the war. As soon as Levy finished speaking, a rough voice came from the small house behind him. Why should we listen to the arrangements of the Academy of Sciences? Levy turned his head again and looked. Hicks, a male Proxima wearing cold-proof clothes and obviously bigger than other Proxima people, came out of the house. Brother, Levy, you are too timid. If you ask me, we should just drive the spacecraft out and fight those damn invaders to the death. Hearing this, the skin on the top of Levy's thinking organ suddenly showed a complex ripple. Then, what? We haven't even found the opposite spacecraft now. Are you going to go out and be a live target? Hicks' voice suddenly choked. But after a few seconds, he muttered softly, no matter what, at least we can't obey the orders of the Academy of Sciences. Otherwise, what's the difference from before? Levy's expression became a little more serious. Hicks, I don't want to hear such words again. Interstellar war is different from the previous small fights. Without the leadership of the Academy of Sciences, we can't win anyway. Hicks looked at Levy with surprise, as if he didn't expect him to say such a thing. Go back, Hicks. Levy waved at him and looked up at the huge dark cloud again, trying to see the situation above through it. You have changed, Levy. Hicks' eyes gradually became complicated. You are no different from those people in the Academy of Sciences now. After saying that, Hicks turned around with disappointment and walked towards the hut behind him. Levy didn't speak, but there was a bit of struggle in his eyes. Has he changed? Become the same as the people in the Academy of Sciences? Maybe, but only in this way can he and his family survive. He opened his mouth and tried to explain to Hicks, but just as the word came to his mouth, a dazzling light came from a distance, interrupting his action. Levy narrowed his eyes and looked into the distance. A dazzling ball of light appeared on the ground in the distance. At the same time, a mushroom cloud rose slowly in the sky. There were also a few small dots with red light rushing towards the ground. Run. The defense network has been breached. Levy was the first to react. He shouted, picked up Aquitas beside him, and rushed to the hut. When passing by Hicks, Hicks was still standing there in a daze, obviously not realizing what had happened. Levy turned his head and took a look. The visible shockwave was rushing towards them. He gritted his teeth, freed one hand, and pulled Hicks hard. Go. Enter the dungeon. A few seconds later, the shockwave caused by the macronuclear bomb swept through the hut. Inside the cabin, the specially designed elevator shook, and the lights inside flickered. Aquitas had obviously never seen such a scene before. She curled up in her father's arms, her body trembling slightly. Don't worry, it's okay. Levy patted his daughter's shoulder gently. This entrance and exit is not afraid of this impact. Waves of impact and roar came from the outside world. Obviously, more than one projectile broke through the interception of the planetary defense network. Damn. Are these invaders crazy? How could they add a nuclear bomb to the electromagnetic cannon projectile? Levy cursed in a low voice. The explosion gradually dissipated. The lights returned to normal first, and the elevator gradually returned to normal. Aquitas' mood gradually calmed down. Thank you, Hicks said to Levy stiffly. I owe you a life, Levy. waved his hand, and reached out to press the button in front of him. The elevator opened again. The HUD was full of dust. He glanced at the screen next to him, which showed the radiation value outside. Fortunately, the radiation concentration was not very high. It was still within their tolerance range. Living on a planet 7 million kilometers away from the main star for a long time, the bodies of Proxima Centauri have a high tolerance for radiation. Thanks to this, the biggest impact of these nuclear bombs on Proxima civilization is the destruction of surface buildings. Levy walked out of the HUD carefully. In the distance, the mushroom cloud had not dissipated yet, and the fire illuminated the entire sky. Aquitas' eyes showed some sadness. She asked softly, "Father, must there be a war?" Levy was silent for a moment, and nodded gently. "Aquitas, there is no way. We will not give up our home planet, and they will not give up their spacecraft." Central Academy of Sciences. Augustus was venting his anger. "Vicious invaders. They actually installed nuclear weapons in the projectiles. How much did we lose?" He turned his head and looked at Lyle on the side. The impact area lost 10% of the electromagnetic guns and laser guns, and the ground loss was not great, mostly some ordinary buildings, and our giant land-based laser guns did not have any damage. Augustus breathed a sigh of relief. But soon, his face looked ugly again. The observer reported the latest observation results. "Sir Augustus, no trace of the solar system fleet was found in the direction of the projectile launch. They should have moved their position in advance." Augustus sat in his chair helplessly. The scene he was worried about finally appeared. At the beginning, due to the unbridled linear acceleration of the solar fleet, they discovered the solar fleet by chance while observing the sun. But since the fleet changed its course and reduced the Hall thruster and radio power as much as possible, even their observation equipment could hardly find their position. The reason is very simple. Although their observation technology is advanced enough to observe fleets several light years away, it is the result of checking one by one under the condition of determining the direction. And now, space is three-dimensional, and the fleet can hide in any direction. Checking any direction will take them a lot of time. By the time they have checked all the pixels in a certain direction, the solar fleet has already changed its trajectory. Chapter 268. The technology tree is wrong. 0.95 AU outside. The human fleet floated quietly in the deep and dark space. Earth inside. LV Yongchang sat in his chair, quietly looking at the holographic image in front of him. When he saw countless explosions and flames coming from the periphery of Proxima B in the image, a trace of helplessness appeared on his face. It seems that the other side has built a lot of defense facilities in the planetary orbit. As time passed, the explosions and flames gradually dissipated. LV Yongchang whispered, "Zero, report the results of the battle, Professor." According to observations, 151 projectiles broke through the enemy's defense network, of which 63 projectiles hit the enemy's defense facilities, and 88 projectiles entered the enemy's atmosphere and successfully hit the enemy's homeland. As Zero's voice sounded, a simulation image appeared in the huge holographic projection in front of the command center. The specific configuration of Proxima B's ring planet defense network was presented to everyone. According to observation, the defensive weapons used by the enemy are orbital high-energy laser cannons and orbital electromagnetic cannons. LV Yongchang nodded thoughtfully. There is not much difference from the information transmitted to the Earth at the beginning. The Proxima civilization has indeed entered a period of development stagnation. Even after more than 100 years of development, they are still in the category of first-level civilization. In addition, through the above information, a guess emerged in Lu Yongchang's mind. The Proxima civilization does not seem to point out artificial intelligence technology. The reason is very simple. As a tentative attack in the first round of attack, the human fleet did not fire many projectiles. Even so, their defense network still had loopholes and even suffered heavy losses. This is enough to prove his guess at least. If it were zero, it would never be possible to make such a low-level mistake. Thinking of this, Lu Yongchang's eyes flashed with a gleam of light. Zero, simulate the interception process of the opponent to see if you can find a loophole. Received. After Zero responded, he began his own calculation work. Countless ballistic trajectories and motion paths appeared on the huge holographic projection. Do You think Proxima is still using a rigid interception program to control these space-based weapons? Fang Zhu frowned and looked at LV Yongchang in surprise. It's an interstellar civilization after all, so it shouldn't be so backward. LV Yongchang shrugged. Who knows? It's always better to try. After saying that, he silently added in his heart, Zero is not something that ordinary civilizations can have. Point as the only existence that is directly endowed with code by the technology tree system. Zero's help to technological civilization far exceeds everyone's imagination. Calculation completed. Zero's voice sounded again. According to the simulation results, I found the following defense loopholes. Looking at the words listed one by one on the holographic projection, LV Yongchang turned his head and raised his eyebrows at Fang Zhu. How about it? Am I right, Fang? Zhu was speechless. Why do I feel that the technology tree of this Proxima civilization is crooked? LV Yongchang ignored Fang Zhu's complaints and gave orders directly. Everyone, keep silent. After 1 week, change the attack mode and conduct the second round of bombardment. 1 week later, Augustus looked at the display in front of him with embarrassment. The word search failed appeared again on the display. During this period, they spent countless efforts to find the solar fleet, but obviously, they did not get any results. The only good news is that they did not receive any attacks during this week. Taking advantage of this gap, they started several spacecraft, climbed into space carefully, and carried out simple maintenance and replacement work on the planetary defense equipment to fill the loopholes that appeared after the attack. Of course, in another way of thinking, this also means that the solar fleet is still shifting its position and is always ready for another similar attack. Sir Augustus, a communication request from Levy. Lyle walked up to him hesitantly and said in a respectful tone. Augustus's face darkened and he waved his short forelimbs impatiently. Tell him not to bother me now. Lyle, who was responsible for reporting the news, showed some panic in his eyes. But, August's eyes showed some coldness and he glared at Lyle in front of him. But what? Facing Augustus's gaze, Lyle's eyes were even more panicked. His breathing holes opened and closed rapidly, and the skin on the top of his thinking organ also perfectly reflected his panic mood. But he still forced himself to speak. But Levy said that you must answer the call, otherwise he can't guarantee the next counterattack. The moment the voice fell, a scorching breath spurted out of Augustus's breathing hole and sprinkled on Lyle's face. How dare he? August roared angrily. Lowly race, after solving the invader, I must settle this account with him. Lyle took a few steps back tremblingly. You. After Augustus vented his anger, he looked at him fiercely. Take the communication. Lyle nodded hurriedly, turned around and fled away from this place of trouble. Augustus. Levy. Somewhat angry voice came from the communication device. What happened? Why was our planetary defense network so easily breached? I was on the surface at the time. Do you know how dangerous it was? Hearing Levy question, Augustus' eyes suddenly rose with anger, but soon, thinking of the consequences of Levy's accidental death, he couldn't help but feel a chill behind him. We underestimated the power of the shells, and I didn't expect those invaders to be so crazy. In order to stabilize the morale of the army, Augustus suppressed his anger and explained it vaguely. Levy was obviously not very satisfied with Augustus' response. But thinking that he still needed help from others, Levy also suppressed his dissatisfaction. Is there any solution? What? Augustus didn't understand the meaning of Levy words for a while. I mean, is there any way to find the invaders' fleet? When it comes to business, Levy's tone gradually calmed down. His words were full of worry. It's difficult for me now. Many people want to launch a counterattack, but until now, we don't have the specific location of the enemy ship. August sighed and shook his head slowly. It's a pity. At present, we have activated the full band active detection equipment and even used optical telescopes, but still have not made any progress. Chapter 269 Micro Detector. There was silence in the communication device. Obviously, this news was also a huge blow to Levy. After a long silence, Levy's voice sounded again. Sir Augustus, I have a suggestion. Wrinkles appeared on the top of Augustus's thinking organ, and he looked at the communication device in front of him with disdain. You say, he didn't believe that an ordinary Proxima Centauri with an ordinary background could make any useful suggestions on such a thing. I think we can make a large number of macro detection equipment to conduct a carpet-style investigation of the surrounding area. Levy whispered, only the most basic detection function and communication function are needed. Augustus was slightly stunned. This is a good idea. But then he shook his head and rejected his proposal in a low voice. It's a bit difficult. Our factory is already at full capacity, and it's hard to make room for so many disposable detection devices. What's more, even with the help of the central computer, it's difficult for our personnel to handle all the complicated information sent back by so many detectors. As soon as the voice fell, a rapid and high-pitched alarm sounded. Enemy attack. Second enemy attack. The observer's sharp shout sounded again. Unlike the last time, this time they were well prepared. At the moment the alarm sounded, the observer reached out and pressed the white button on the side. A few minutes later the alarm was lifted. Augustus looked at the observer on the side with a gloomy face. How is the interception situation? The observer quickly tapped the buttons on the console in front of him. After seeing the data, he responded somewhat helplessly. The damage is more serious than last time. The damage to the affected area reached 15%. What's worse is that a projectile fell near our giant land-based laser cannon. The laser cannon is not seriously damaged, but it needs some time to repair. Augustus's face became uglier. How could this happen? In theory, they have enough time to react and intercept this time, and the damage should be greatly reduced. The observer tapped the keyboard-like keys again and called up a data. Unlike the last time, this attack lasted longer, and the density of projectiles has also decreased a lot, which has increased our interception pressure. The opponent should have adjusted their attack method. Our original preset program cannot cope with this attack mode well. Augustus' heart sank. Is there a remedy? Lyle shook his head. It's difficult. It will take at least a month to change all the programs, and the defense equipment is basically equivalent to decoration during this period. Sir Augustus, why don't you consider my proposal again? Levy's voice came from the communication device next to him. At present, this is the most suitable plan for us. We can't keep wasting time like this. This will consume a lot of our strategic material reserves. In comparison, the other side has only consumed a few shells. Augustus's face changed several times and he exhaled a long breath. Levy, tell me your idea in detail. In the next month, Proxima b was attacked by electromagnetic cannons from different directions. Most of the ring planet defense facilities in the orbit of Proxima b were destroyed. Fortunately, the Proxima civilization has enough resources to replace the destroyed turrets in time. Otherwise, it is estimated that before the probe is completed, Proxima b has been saturated and implode. Of course, this approach is also a great burden for the human fleet. From the beginning of the water now, they have emptied the supplies of a whole ship of TOT, thinking that only 99.6% of the war reserves were left. Yongchang issued an order to continue the attack. With tears in his eyes, he wanted to see how long this Proxima civilization could last, not to mention the resources consumed by the constantly changing artillery positions in the orbit of Proxima b. Even the increasingly harsh environment is enough to make the Proxima people suffer, although the genetic data sent by the Proxima civilization shows that they have extremely high resistance to radiation. As the saying goes, quantitative change leads to qualitative change. After more than a month of intermittent bombardment, the macro detector mentioned by Levy was finally completed. On this day, dozens of starships took off from the surface, pierced the dim sky, and flew directly into the orbit of Proxima b. The disc-shaped starship with a diameter of more than 100 meters scattered hundreds of millions of macro detectors on the periphery of Proxima b. Driven by the macro hall propulsion device, these detectors will cover the area of 10 AU near Proxima b within a week. The next day. LV Yongchang was preparing to order the fleet to carry out long-range bombardment on Proxima b in the distance as usual. Suddenly, a rapid alarm interrupted his action. Unknown signal source detected approaching. When seeing the warning in the holographic projection, LV Yongchang's face changed drastically. 0 zeros. Holographic image appeared instantly, and at the same time, a huge holographic projection flashing red light unfolded. Professor, a large number of signal sources appeared in the direction of Proxima b. It is initially judged to be detectors. The number 3672 have been found so far. Update 15,803. Update 36,709. The warning light flashed quickly, and the number of signal sources in the holographic projection was also rising rapidly. Now, everyone in the command center changed their faces. Fuck, where did they get so many detectors? LV Yongchang pressed the fleet communication button in front of him. Everyone, pay attention. Enter deep sea mode immediately. Remove silent state. We have been discovered. All ships turn on active detection modules. Start hull thrusters. Unlock all weapon modules. And prepare to respond to attacks. A few minutes later in the deep and dark universe, 501 extremely bright light spots suddenly lit up. That was the hull thrusters of the human fleet running at full power. At the same time, all starships turned on their own active detection equipment. At this moment, in the sight of the Proxima civilization, the human fleet was like a bright light, suddenly appearing in the dim cosmic background. In the deep sea cabin point, the font in the holographic image became more and more bright red. Signal source distance 10,000 kilometers. Signal source distance 5,000 kilometers. Signal source contact alarm. A series of bright red alarms flashed before everyone's eyes. LV Yongchang couldn't help holding his breath. Signal source found. As the last message flashed, a 3D modeled image appeared in front of everyone. Looking at the extremely crude 3D model of the macro detector in front of him, LV Yongchang's face instantly turned ugly. Chapter 270, Counterattack. Fight back. Cheated. A bad idea flashed through LV Yongchang's mind. Being in the deep sea cabin, he could only give orders to Zero through the brainwave reader. Zero, control the mechanical arm to capture a detector. After receiving the order, Zero quickly controlled the Earth to approach the detector on the side point. When the two were close, a huge mechanical arm stretched out from the belly of the Earth and went straight to the tiny detector. Capture success. A prompt appeared in front of LV Yongchang. Zero, send it to the laboratory and disassemble it to see what the structure is inside. LV Yongchang issued a second order. A few minutes later, the holographic projection in front of LV Yongchang changed quietly. The internal structure of the detector gradually emerged. Although the construction method was different and the shape of the parts was slightly different, he still recognized the various modules in the macro detector: a set of macro hall propulsion devices, a radio transceiver, and an active detection device similar to radar. Three main components were spliced into the detector in front of him that was less than half a meter in size. While LV Yongchang was observing the structure, Zero also successfully completed the cracking work. According to Zero's cracking, its internal radar-like device cannot identify the type of object, and the radio transceiver cannot transmit complex information. Simply put, it is more like a beacon than a detector. When a larger object appears nearby, it will send a simple signal to Proxima b. As for judging whether the large object is an enemy ship, an asteroid, or something else, it is completely beyond its ability. After reading the test results given by Zero, and then connecting to the extremely large number of signal sources, LV Yongchang's face became more and more ugly. At that moment, he completely understood the opponent's tactics. Proxima b. In the Central Academy of Sciences, Augustus paced back and forth in the observation room with a solemn face. It has been a whole day since the macro detector was sent out. How is it? Is there any result? His voice was full of impatience. An observer quickly shook his head. Sir Augustus, the probe did not send back any useful data. At present, we have only found a few asteroids. August's expression changed slightly. He exhaled a breath of hot air and forced himself to suppress the uneasiness and irritability in his heart. Sir Augustus, be patient. Levy voice sounded in the communication device beside him. Give those probes some more time. They will help us find those invaders. What if they are not deceived? Augustus said in a deep voice. Levy, you also know how poor the quality of these probes is. At this point, Augustus paused slightly. They can't even be called probes. Levy shrugged. That's okay. When the probes complete the coverage work, they will still be exposed to us. As long as they move, our probes will send us a signal. What if it is an asteroid? Augustus subconsciously raised his voice point in the communication device. Levy's voice became more and more weird. Is it an asteroid? We can know if we fire a shot. August fell silent point after a long while. He exhaled a hot breath again. I hope so. As soon as the voice fell, a piercing alarm sounded throughout the Central Academy of Sciences. Found it. The observer shouted excitedly. The other side has turned on active detection. They are moving. August turned his head and looked at the monitor in front of the observer. I saw a huge white dot appear on the monitor. Distance 0.95 AU. August bit his back teeth hard. Cunning invaders. I finally found you. Levy. Now it's your mission. Proxima B. Underground city. Point. After Levy cut off the communication, he stood up from the chair and walked towards the door. Father Aquitus. Voice came from the side. Point. Levy footsteps paused slightly. Point. He turned his head to look at his daughter, and a slightly stiff smile appeared on the top of his thinking organ. Aquitus, stay here obediently. Father Aquitus seemed to want to say something. Her lips moved, and thousands of words finally merged into one sentence. Be careful. Levy did not speak, but nodded silently. Point. Then he opened the door and walked out. Point. Just a few minutes later, a deafening shout came from outside the room. Counterattack. 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 Perhaps because of the bombardment for a whole month, all Proxima people held back their anger after learning that the coordinates of the enemy ship were exposed. The Proxima people who had the driving qualification got up and ran towards the direction of the parked spacecraft. An hour later, with a long alarm sounded, a huge crack appeared on the surface of Proxima B. Hundreds of disc-shaped spacecraft flew out one after another after escaping the gravity of the planet. They rushed straight to the target location, Earth. After understanding the methods of the Proxima Centauri, Yongchang also gave up his guerrilla warfare plan. Yongchang, what should we do now? A message appeared in front of him. It was a question from Fang Zhu. In the holographic projection, the number of detector signal sources has risen to more than 100,000. Retreat first and see how the Proxima civilization reacts. The order was issued, and the originally compact fleet instantly scattered. As flagships, Earth, and Teoti, material storage ships took the lead in heading away from Proxima B. As for the Golden Crow battleship, it was responsible for the rearguard work. Not long after the retreat operation began, an alarm appeared in front of everyone. Alarm. Enemy fleet detected. Current distance 80,000 kilometers. As the alarm popped up, a star map instantly appeared in the holographic projection. There were 120 red dots marked in the star map. These red dots were closing the distance with their own fleet at a speed visible to the naked eye. The moment he saw the picture, Yongchang's face suddenly changed. What a fast speed. Zero. How long will it take them to catch up with us? Zero immediately gave the answer. Estimated contact time 160 seconds. It's too late. We can only fight. Without any hesitation, Yongchang issued an order through the brainwave reader again. The fleet formation changed again. Earth and Teoti still maintained their original driving route. To be on the safe side, they needed to evacuate to a safe distance. As for the Golden Crow battleship, it slowed down and stopped in place. They slowly adjusted their direction, waiting for the moment when the enemy ship entered the range. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271, Accessibility Unlocked. Current distance 60,000 kilometers. Flight trajectory calculation is completed. Ballistic calculation is completed. Zayoziji stared at the holographic projection in front of him and breathed hard into the pale yellow deep sea liquid in the deep sea cabin. Give them a taste of the electromagnetic gun first. While thinking about it, he issued an order through the brainwave reading device. First Fleet, fire. The next moment, under Zayoziji's order, a total of 60 starships in the First Fleet sprayed countless tongues of fire forward. The distance between the enemy ship and our own is still shortening, perhaps due to lack of experience, or having sufficient confidence in their own starships. The Proxima Centauri fleet's march is extremely monotonous. Their path forward is entirely a straight line, but as the First Fleet took the lead in firing, the Proxima Centauri fleet suddenly changed its original extremely arrogant way of traveling. On the star map, those 120 red dots were flying around like frightened flies. Seeing this scene, Zayoziji's face darkened slightly. Although I don't know why the opponent chose this chaotic way of traveling, there is no doubt that this irregular flight curve extremely restrains their electromagnetic gun attacks. It takes about 10 seconds for the electromagnetic gun projectile to attack the enemy ship. The attack delay of 10 seconds, coupled with the opponent's extremely messy evasion methods, the firepower of mere 60 Golden Crow battleships is simply not enough. Zayoziji's mouth twitched, and he let out a light tut. A mouthful of deep sea liquid entered his mouth smoothly. He spat out the deep sea liquid in his mouth impatiently. I have to say that this thing does affect people's performance, especially in the process of command. Almost every starship pilot has experienced the feeling of accidentally swallowing a mouthful of deep sea fluid. This feeling is extremely sour. Looking at the enemy ships still flying around like headless flies, Zayoziji retracted his thoughts of complaining. Second, third, fourth fleet, I need fire support. Through the brainwave reading device, he sent a signal for help to his companions. There was almost no delay, and the remaining 180 Golden Crow battleships opened fire at the same time. The endless electromagnetic gun projectiles formed an extremely dense metal storm, sweeping towards the enemy ships in the distance. Suddenly, a highlighted text appeared above the holographic projection. Auxiliary functions unlocked. Zayoziji was suddenly startled. But soon, he realized that this was an order from Professor Lu. At the beginning, in order to improve the capabilities of each driver, Yongchang directly ordered the ban on a series of auxiliary functions of 0. However, what surprised Zayoziji was that it was not until this moment that Professor Lu ordered the unlocking of Zero's auxiliary function. What surprised him even more was that the previous ballistic prediction functions were not included in the category of auxiliary functions. Before he could recover, the scene in the holographic projection made him sluggish again. WTF. He opened his eyes suddenly and looked excitedly at the holographic image in front of him. Earth Quantum Supercomputing Center. The moment the accessibility feature is unlocked, Zero's CPU usage spikes instantly. A dense white mist then rose from the heat dissipation area soaked in liquid nitrogen. The vaporized liquid nitrogen quickly takes away the huge heat of the supercomputing center. Then, under the action of the compressor, the vaporized liquid nitrogen becomes liquid again and returns to the cooling pool. With the support of powerful computing power, Zero quickly calculated the possible route of the enemy ship. Then, under Zero's control, each electromagnetic gun began to move with extremely small tremors. Every projectile was placed at an extremely precise position, perfectly blocking the direction of 120 enemy ships. Zayoziji saw this scene through holographic projection. Fuck. This is so cool. His eyes widened, and he shouted excitedly in his heart. Self-aiming. This is self-aiming. Like Zayoziji, almost every starship pilot was shocked by Zero's powerful abilities. The 5-minute metal storm directly consumed 50% of the projectile reserves in the Golden Crow battleship. The consumption of these 5 minutes far exceeded the consumption of guerrilla warfare in the past month. Proxima Centauri fleet. Looking at the approaching fleet of invaders, Levy's eyes showed excitement. His heart was beating rapidly, pumping blue blood crazily into the veins all over his body. From the flying speed of the two, Levy saw the gap in the technological level of the opposite side. The performance of the enemy starship is far inferior to our own. At this moment, he had even thought about how to ravage those despicable intruders next. But the next moment, an alarm completely disrupted his plan. When he saw the familiar active detection data, his expression changed instantly. It's the electromagnetic gun again. Damn. How much ammo do those invaders have? Just when he was about to organize everyone to conduct defensive interception, he suddenly discovered a problem. Due to lack of experience, our fleet was obviously in chaos when faced with the sudden electromagnetic gun attack. Hundreds of starships were scurrying around like headless flies. Calm down. Calm down. Levy shouted hoarsely through the communication device, trying to calm down his teammates. A few seconds later, projectiles with a diameter of 1 meter streaked across the periphery of his spacecraft at extremely fast speeds. In the chaos, Levy didn't care about other people and directly started the defense interception program. With the help of active detection equipment and the preset program of the onboard computer, he successfully dealt with several oncoming projectiles. Only then did he come to his senses and turned his head to look at his teammates. It has to be said that fools have good luck. The reckless and irregular flight route just restrained the opponent's electromagnetic cannon attack. At least, they did not suffer any damage in this round of attack. Before he could breathe a sigh of relief, the piercing alarm sounded again. The alarm sounded sharper and more urgent than the last time. Levy looked at the dense electromagnetic cannon projectiles on the display with bloodshot eyes and shouted at his teammates at the top of his lungs. Fortunately, Levy's shouting worked. After a round of attacks, the Proxima fleet gradually regained its composure. Under Levy command, they tried to return to their proper positions according to the training process, but it was too late. The density and accuracy of the metal storm under Zero's control increased significantly. The flames of explosions continued to rise and the Proxima fleet, 1, 2, 10, 20. In just 1 minute, a full 20 ships were blasted into space debris by the electromagnetic cannon projectiles carrying miniature nuclear bombs. But the metal storm is not over yet. Warning white lights flashed everywhere on the spacecraft. Looking around, the sky and the ground were full of electromagnetic cannon projectiles that would kill anyone who touched them. The flames of explosions rose and fell, reflecting Levy's desperate look. When the number of crashed spacecraft reached 50, he gave up. He grabbed the communication equipment beside him and shouted hoarsely, "Retreat, retreat." Chapter 272. I suggest using electromagnetic cannon to explore the way. The defeat was like a landslide. The moment Levy called for retreat, the remaining 70 Proxima spacecraft began to turn around and flee towards Proxima B. Zao Ziji looked at the holographic projection in front of him excitedly. In the picture, the scene of the Proxima fleet's defeat under the metal storm was clearly visible. He clenched his fists tightly. The first battle was a victory, as the first direct interstellar war of human civilization. This victory was undoubtedly extremely inspiring when he found that the alien spacecraft had signs of escaping the battlefield. A ruthless look suddenly appeared in his eyes. Come as you want, leave as you want. Where in the world is such a cheap thing? First Fleet, apply for pursuit. He quickly submitted an application to the Fleet Commander-in-Chief LV Yongchang. Looking at the pursuit request from Zao Ziji in front of him, LV Yongchang fell into deep thought. Should I chase or not? As the old saying goes, don't chase a desperate enemy. But the current situation seems to be a little different. The Proxima Fleet's combat effectiveness is far beyond his imagination. Before the direct war started, he had done countless simulations in his mind. But he never expected that the fleet sent by Proxima could not even survive the first round of electromagnetic cannon attacks. Looking at the extremely scattered formation, a bold guess gradually emerged in Lu Yangchang's mind. This Proxima civilization, wouldn't it be a flower stand that would break at the touch? As this thought gradually became clear, he pursed his lips hard, and his eyes gradually became fierce. Permitted to pursue. First Fleet, Second Fleet, pursue the enemy ship together. The order was issued, and 120 bright spots of light appeared in the dim space in an instant. Forward 4. Looking at the 120, Golden Crow, battleships that broke away from the team and flew towards Proxima B. Yongchang slightly relaxed his frown. This pursuit is mainly to see the trump card of Proxima civilization. If the other side is really as he thought, a flower stand that will break at the touch, then it is estimated that it will not be long before the first interstellar war of human civilization can be successfully concluded. Request for support. Request for support. The underground city of Proxima B in the Central Academy of Sciences echoed Levy's cry for help. Augustus was dazed with an ugly look. Although these 50 small spaceships are nothing to them, the one-sided situation is still unacceptable to him. In Augustus's view, the main reason for the disastrous defeat is actually human factors. Thinking of this, Augustus cursed in a low voice, "Damn it, I knew these inferior races are unreliable, but things have already happened, and now we can only think about how to make up for it. They are chasing us." Levy's voice in the communication equipment became more and more panicked. "We need support, August." Eyes suddenly lit up. He was still struggling with how to deal with it, and a great plan suddenly emerged in his thinking organ. He walked quickly to the communication device and pressed the communication button. "Levy, lead them to the vicinity of the mother planet. I will send someone to pick you up." Looking at the Proxima fleet getting farther and farther away in the holographic projection, Zayozid's eyes revealed a bit of helplessness for the current human beings. This is an unsolvable flaw. While greatly increasing the size of the starship, its maneuverability has also been greatly weakened. Compared with the Golden Crow battleship with a length of 1,500 meters. The Proxima spacecraft with a diameter of about 100 meters seems extremely petite. It is precisely because of this that their acceleration performance far exceeds that of the Golden Crow battleship. Fortunately, the Proxima civilization has a mother planet that cannot move freely. As the saying goes, the monk can run away, but the temple cannot. What's the use of running away quickly if you have the ability? Let Proxima B run too. Thinking of this, Zayozid's mouth curled up with a hint of sarcasm. In the dim starry sky, 120 bright spots of light slowly drove towards the target location. No interception, no traps. The driving process was extremely smooth, so smooth that it made people feel uneasy. In the brainwave communication channel, several fleet commanders were still chatting to kill time. Some people even started discussing how to land on Proxima B. Zayozid and Yongchang frowned at the same time. Something is wrong. First Fleet, slow down immediately. Zayozid suddenly gave an order to the First Fleet on the move. The First Fleet, which was still 300,000 kilometers away from Proxima B, immediately began to slow down the moment the order was issued. The two fleets that were originally moving side by side also had a gap. Warning. Fleet driving condition is abnormal. Commander of the Second Fleet. A bright red alarm suddenly jumped out in front of Brad's eyes. Zayozid. Brad questioned angrily, "What are you doing? Why did you suddenly order your fleet to slow down?" Before Zayozid could speak, Yongchang's order came. Brad, slow down your fleet. Keep in sync with the First Fleet. Brad's face was full of confusion and doubt, but facing the Commander-in-Chief's order, he still honestly ordered the Second Fleet to slow down. Zayozid, tell me what you think. Yongchang ignored Brad and asked Zayozid, who spoke first. Why did you issue a deceleration order without authorization? Looking at the words in front of him, Zayozid's heart trembled slightly. He knew what he had just done. To put it more seriously, his behavior just now was no different from disobeying orders on the battlefield. He did not dare to delay and immediately reported his guess to Yongchang. There was silence in the brainwave communication channel. Well done. Remember to report first next time and communicate well with friendly forces. A short sentence appeared in front of everyone. Zayozid breathed a sigh of relief. Although he was in the deep sea cabin, he still felt a cold sweat on his back. I have the same hunch that the Proxima civilization seems to be setting a trap for us. Yongchang continued to express his views. So far, we have not been blocked. There must be something wrong. When things are abnormal, we have reason to suspect that the Proxima civilization has ambushed a large number of troops near the mother planet. Hearing this, the other fleet commanders also broke out in cold sweat. Especially the second fleet commander Brad. He looked at the holographic projection in front of him with an unpleasant expression, his eyes filled with regret and self-blame. LV Yongchang glanced at the holographic projection, which showed the distance between the two fleets, and Proxima B 80,000 kilometers just outside their active detection range point. As if aware of LV Yongchang's entanglement, Zhao Ziju took the initiative to make a suggestion. Professor Lu, I suggest using the electromagnetic gun to explore the way. Chapter 273, 5181 vs 120. In the deep space 80,000 kilometers away from Proxima B 120, Golden Crow, battleships slowly raised their electromagnetic gun muzzles with Zero's assistance. The electromagnetic gun muzzles pointed directly at Proxima B in front of them. Fire. The moment the order was issued, countless flames flashed again in the deep space. Gunfire. It only takes 13.3 seconds for the electromagnetic cannon projectile to cross a distance of 80,000 kilometers inside Earth. A countdown appeared in front of everyone. 13, 10 alarm. Alarm. The flashing red light filled everyone's sight. A large number of enemy ship signals detected. The active detection equipment sounded an alarm point, as if appearing out of thin air. Countless signal sources appeared in front of the fleet. Zhao Ziji's pupils shrank suddenly, at the request of the reader. Zhao Ziji's pupils shrank. JPG. He stared at the holographic image in front of him, his lips trembling unconsciously. Something big happened. In the active detection screen, near Proxima B, there are dense and countless red dots. Each red dot symbolizes a starship equipped with active detection equipment. Near Proxima B point, countless disc-shaped spacecrafts are quietly parked in the deep space, waiting for the invaders from the front to fall into the trap. Levy, they are coming. Augustus' voice came from the communication device. Received. This time, I will teach these invaders a hard lesson. Thinking of the 50 crashed spacecrafts, Levy breathing holes suddenly spurted out bursts of hot air. Levy, are you sure they only have 240 spacecrafts? Augustus asked again. Levy didn't hesitate. Of course. I saw it clearly. Well, they sent half of their troops. The active detection equipment shows that there are 120 spaceships heading towards us. Augustus said lightly, pay attention to concealment. Wait until they are within the range of all weapons before starting the attack. He was silent for a while and then spoke again. Attention. The current distance is 120,000 kilometers. Levy narrowed his 6 eyes slightly and stared at the deep space in front of him. I can't see anything. He had a bad premonition in his heart. But thinking of the army behind him, he shook his thinking organ and threw away the distracting thoughts. In order to teach the invaders a painful lesson, the Proxima civilization sent all the combat-capable spaceships. Abbreviation. All in. Wait. The other side slowed down. August's doubtful voice sounded again. What's the situation? Did they find a problem? Levy. Sense of uneasiness became stronger again. Impossible. We have been in silence. They can't find us at such a distance. August did not speak. Obviously, he was observing the movements of the enemy fleet on the surface. A few seconds later, a scream broke the original silence. Electromagnetic gun. They fired the electromagnetic gun again. Defend. Defend quickly. August's hoarse shouting rang out in the communication equipment inside the human flagship, Earth, located in the rear. Enemy ship signal detected. 381 ships. Update. Enemy ship signal detected. 870 ships. The numbers in the holographic projection kept jumping. In the end, it stopped at a terrifying number. Enemy ship signal. 5181 ships. The moment he saw this number, Zhao Ziji's eyes widened. It's over. Barbecue 5181 vs 120. A normal person knows what the result will be. Retreat. Retreat immediately. The commander of the second fleet, Brad, has issued a retreat order, but the second fleet, thousands of miles away, did not make any movement. Calm down, Brad. LV Yongchang directly intercepted the order issued by Brad. 0. Fire giant flares. The situation was urgent, and Yongchang directly let Zero take over the command of the fleet point with the launch of the electromagnetic cannon. The Proxima fleet lifted its previous silence point facing the overwhelming electromagnetic cannon projectiles. The planetary defense network and the Proxima fleet simultaneously exerted their strength, using high-energy laser cannons and electromagnetic cannons to stop them all. For a moment, countless explosions and flames appeared between the two fleets. Just as Levy was about to take the initiative to launch an attack, 120 dim light spots appeared right in front of them. What was that? Levy was stunned. Before he could react, an extremely strong light was released from the 120 dim light spots. In the center of the battlefield, it seemed as if a small star appeared. Under the illumination of the giant flare, the Proxima fleet revealed their true appearance. The optical telescopes swept across at an extremely fast speed. Zero. Analyze the enemy fleet composition. LV Yongchang quickly issued his order in less than a second. The statistical data appeared in front of everyone. Enemy ships with a diameter of more than 1,000 meters. 1 ship. Enemy ships with a diameter of 500 meters to 1,000 meters. 2 ships. Enemy ships with a diameter of 100 to 500 meters. 1070 ships. Enemy ships with a diameter of 50 to 100 meters. 2008 ships. Enemy ships with a diameter of less than 50 meters. 2100 ships. Looking at the data in front of him, LV Yongchang's face gradually became strange. How can there be ships with a diameter of less than 50 meters? What is this? A combination of the old, weak, sick and disabled. Everyone, you have seen the configuration of the enemy ships. If nothing unexpected happens, these should be all the starships of the Proxima civilization. Retreat is not my style. I declare that the fleet is on the way. Prepare for a general attack. The order was issued, and the Earth and the other starships turned around and rushed towards Proxima B together. At the same time, a message appeared in front of everyone in the first fleet and the second fleet. Attention, all units, free attack. Repeat, free attack. Hold on. Reinforcement are coming soon. The effect of the flare is two-way. When humans observed the true appearance of the Proxima fleet, Proxima also observed the appearance of their human fleet. But the neat 121,500 meter long starships obviously caused a great mental shock to them. The battlefield fell into a strange silence. But soon, this long lost tranquility was broken by Levy. With the help of the onboard computer, he fired a series of electromagnetic cannons at a Golden Crow battleship in the crosses. Levy action was like a signal. In just a few seconds, 5,181 Proxima spacecraft and the planetary defense network sounded the horn of attack at the same time. Countless electromagnetic cannon projectiles rushed towards the 120 Golden Crow battleships in front. Chapter 274. In trouble. Inside the Golden Crow battleship, red lights full of warnings flashed everywhere. Warning, you have been locked by the enemy ship. Warning, electromagnetic cannon strikes detected on the way. Baixuan looked at the dense warning messages on the holographic projection in front of him and bit his back teeth hard. TMD, something big has happened. Look at the message sent by the headquarters. Is that what people say? Free attack? Free defense is more like it. Facing the upcoming attack, he quickly suppressed the desire to complain in his heart. Defense. Prepare to intercept the enemy attack. Baixuan looked at the electromagnetic cannon projectiles getting closer and closer to him and quickly issued an order. In any case, let's survive the first round of attacks first. Target locked. A few milliseconds later, a prompt appeared in front of Baixuan. In the holographic projection, dense and tiny red dots appeared instantly. That was the electromagnetic cannon projectile from the Proxima fleet. Weapon system charging. A slight hum came from the deck under his feet and entered Baixuan's ears through the deep sea chamber in the deep sea fluid. At the same time, a faint red light appeared at the muzzle of the high energy laser cannon outside the Golden Crow battleship. A second later, another prompt popped up in front of Baixuan. Weapon system charging completed. Automatic interception function activated. When the last prompt faded out of sight, Countless red rays shot forward from the Golden Crow battleship where he was under Zero's control. The high-energy laser beam seemed to have eyes, accurately bombarding every electromagnetic cannon projectile that attacked Golden Crow. The whole process sounds long, but it actually took less than 3 seconds, almost at the moment when Proxima B launched the electromagnetic cannon attack. The 120 Golden Crow battleship fleet still activated the automatic interception function. Billions of high-energy laser beams instantly formed an impenetrable defense network in front of the fleet. Interception successful. A prompt popped up in the holographic projection point before Baixuan could breathe a sigh of relief. The alarm sounded again. Electromagnetic cannon strike detected on the way. Warning. You have been hit by a laser weapon. Please take evasive action immediately. In the holographic projection, several flashing red dots suddenly appeared on the 3D model of the Golden Crow battleship. Degree of armor damage in the hit area: 10.7%. Update. Degree of armor damage in the hit area: 21.6%. The camera cuts to the outside world point. Perhaps it was because it was aware that the electromagnetic cannon offensive had little effect on the enemy ship. The Proxima fleet quietly changed its attack mode. Electromagnetic cannon and laser weapons work together. In the gaps between the electromagnetic cannon projectiles, countless lasers were emitted from the Proxima civilization's spacecraft and shot directly at the Golden Crow fleet point without any reaction time. The high-energy laser beam shone directly on the surface of the Golden Crow starship point. Swish. Although the laser beam only lasted for a few milliseconds, the high temperature it brought still burned a small pit in the outer armor of Golden Crow. In the pit, the molten armor gradually solidified. Since then, an ugly scar has appeared on the surface of the starship, which was originally extremely smooth. But is this the end? Of course not. The first laser disappeared, and the second laser followed closely, irradiating the same position. 1, 2, 3. A beam of lasers accurately bombarded the same position of the Golden Crow starship point. The originally shallow scar sank at a speed visible to the naked eye. Looking at the rising degree of damage to the armor, Baixuan's eyes showed a bit of panic. But then he remembered the means to deal with laser weapons. The damage caused by high-energy laser beams mainly comes from the instantaneous ultra-high temperature point. Therefore, there is a tricky countermeasure point for these low-power laser beams that cannot penetrate the spacecraft's protective layer in an instant. They can be easily dealt with, as long as their attack areas are dispersed as much as possible. And the method of dispersing the attack area is also very simple. The starship maintains high-speed irregular movement, and those laser beams naturally cannot continue to accurately bombard the same area. Thinking of this, Baixuan quickly issued his own order. Jinwu A21, forward 4. The originally dim Hall thruster instantly released an extremely strong light. Under the huge thrust, the 1,500 meter long Jinwu battleship began to move faster and faster. Like Baixuan's decision, the remaining 119 Jinwu battleships also entered a forward 4 state. The laser beams continued to shine on the surface of the Jinwu battleship as the Jinwu's movement speed increased. The destructive effect caused by the high-energy laser beams became weaker and weaker. At best, it could only leave a series of thin scars on its surface. While avoiding laser beams and electromagnetic cannons, each Golden Crow also occasionally fired a burst of electromagnetic cannons at the Proxima fleet on the opposite side. But obviously, such a scattered attack is like tickling the Proxima fleet with its back against the planetary defense network, and it can't cause any damage at all. In the deep space 0.95 AU away from Proxima B, 381 starships are rushing towards their destination with all their strength. Inside the human flagship Earth, laser weapons. The moment the frontline fleet was hit by the laser beam, LV Yongchang exclaimed in his heart, "Zero. What is the distance between the two sides?" Zero quickly gave the answer on the holographic projection: 80,000 kilometers. LV Yongchang's face instantly sank. Something happened. Proxima's weapon technology is much more advanced than Thys. The laser weapons and ion beam weapons of the human fleet have an effective range of only 50,000 kilometers. There is at least a 60% Gap between the two. No, we can't fight like this. LV Yongchang looked at the Golden Crow fleet that could only be forced to defend in the holographic projection and bit his back teeth hard. Not being able to match the opponent's range is a taboo in interstellar wars, although at present, the opponent's offensive has been easily resolved by the Golden Crow fleet, and the situation looks very good. But as long as the war lasts a little longer, these 120 Golden Crow battleships will be annihilated. Let's not talk about the ammunition reserve on the Golden Crow battleship. The continuous laser weapons alone are enough to slowly wear away the Golden Crow's armor. LV Yongchang looked at the holographic projection in front of him anxiously. Escape? You're kidding. I can't even outrun the opponent. Fight. What to fight with? The range of laser weapons and ion beam weapons is far from enough. Are they relying on those electromagnetic cannons that are fired at any time when the range and speed are not as good as the opponent? Blind pursuit will only result in being killed by the kite. 0. How long will it take us to reach the battlefield? LV Yongchang took a deep breath of deep sea liquid with a very high oxygen content and suppressed his anxiety. Expected to arrive at the destination in 4 hours. Chapter 275. Everyone, here we come. 04:01:23. Seeing the bright red countdown beating in the holographic projection, Lu Yongchang couldn't help but hold his breath. This was the first time since he boarded the Earth that he disliked the flying speed of this flagship. Ziji, is there any good solution? Lu Yongchang, who thought to no avail, asked Zhao Ziji. Obviously, Zhao Ziji has no good solution to this dilemma. After waiting for a long time, Lu Yongchang waited for his response. Professor Lu, at present, we do not have a suitable solution. Only when we reach the main battlefield, suppress the opponent's large forces with the help of electromagnetic guns, and then close the distance can we have a chance to win this war. Lu Yongchang looked at the holographic projection in front of him and nodded silently. Exactly the same idea as him. However, I wonder if the 120 Golden Crow battleships can survive these 4 hours. Lu Yongchang's face was full of worry and regret. If it were just high energy laser cannons and electromagnetic cannons with Zero's auxiliary capabilities, he believed that these starships could wait for rescue unharmed. However, if the opponent has a more powerful weapon, for example, ion beam weapons, then these 120 starships are probably in danger. Frontal battlefield. Bai Yixuan stared at the holographic image in front of him with all his concentration. It shows various conditions of the battleship. Damage degree of outer armor of the whole ship: 53.78%. Fuel remaining: 90.13%. Ammo remaining: 58.11%. He raised his eyelids and glanced above the projection. 01:34:33,103. There is still 1 hour and 34 minutes left before reinforcement arrive. The number of Golden Crow battleships remaining on the battlefield: 103. Damn it. Bai Yixuan said viciously in the brainwave communication channel. When the reinforcement arrive, I have to show them some color. Han Fan's message then came. Team White, don't talk about this now. The frequency of electromagnetic guns and laser beams fired from the opposite side is getting higher and higher. Bai Yixuan twitched the corners of his mouth and revealed a sneer. They probably found out that our reinforcement are coming soon. Everyone, hold on, wait for the reinforcement to arrive. Wait a minute, the flagship on the other side has moved. As soon as the news was sent out, a shrill alarm sounded inside the Golden Crow battleship. The outer reaches of Proxima Centauri B. Levi eyes were filled with joy. This feeling of shooting is so exciting. The only drawback is that these targets are too slippery. Of course, after spending a long time, he still solved an invader's starship. The moment Levi saw the 1,500 meter giant starship turn into fireworks, Levi's excitement reached its peak. Levi, we need to use the flagship. August's deep voice came from the communication device, interrupting his excitement. Why? Well, controlling the direction of the electromagnetic gun and laser cannon. Levy said dissatisfiedly, the opponent hasn't revealed its trump card yet, we can't use the flagship so early. Augustus said calmly, their reinforcement are coming. A total of 381 starships. Levy suddenly fell silent. Of course he knew what it meant. Okay, let's dispatch the flagship. The bottom of a disc-shaped spacecraft with a diameter of 1,100 meters, located in the center of the Proxima fleet, lit up with the light of the Hall thruster under the powerful thrust, it rushed straight towards the battlefield ahead. The unusual behavior of the Proxima Centauri civilization flagship naturally attracted everyone's attention. What do they want to do, including Liu Yongchang? Everyone had a trace of doubt in their hearts, but this doubt was solved in just a few seconds. Alarm. You have been locked by an enemy ship. Please take evasive action immediately. An alarm sounded in one of the Golden Crow battleship's Captain Wu Ran, as a veteran pilot, subconsciously controlled the starship to dodge when he saw the alarm point, but it was too late. Almost at the same time as the alarm sounded, a burst of fire appeared in front of him. Boom. Golden Crow. The battleship suddenly exploded. A strong explosion of fire emitted from the fusion furnace at the tail of the Golden Crow, instantly affecting the entire starship. A brilliant ball of fireworks appeared in everyone's eyes. Ion beam weapons, or thought came to everyone's mind at the same time. Like them, the opponent also mastered ion beam weapons. Wu Ran. Baixuan's eyes widened suddenly, looking straight at the slowly extinguishing fireworks in the projection point. The moment he confirmed that his old teammate was dead, the flames of hatred suddenly rose in his eyes. TMD, I'll fight you. Hong Fan, tell me the distance. Hong Fan changed his usual cheerful tone and answered Baixuan's inquiry without any nonsense. 69,000 kilometers. White team, we don't have enough range. Alarm. The piercing alarm sounded in Baixuan's ears before he could react. Zero, who had learned a lesson once, had already controlled the starship and made evasive actions. High energy ion beam detected. Successful avoidance. In the deep sea cabin, Baixuan breathed in the yellowish deep sea liquid, trying to suppress his violent heartbeat. Just almost. Captain Bay, what should we do now? Hong Fan asked Baixuan. The attack just now was like a basin of ice water poured on Baixuan's head, instantly calming him down. Baixuan took a deep look at the disc-shaped starship in the projection and squeezed out a word with difficulty. Escape. The addition of the Proxima flagship has changed the situation drastically. The human fleet, which was originally at a small disadvantage, has directly turned into a big headwind. A series of explosions lit up in the deep and dark universe. Each flame means the crash of a Golden Crow battleship. Even if it is zero, it can only rely on prediction to avoid the ion beam attack close to the speed of light. In just 1 hour, more than half of the 120 Golden Crow battleships were lost. Alarm. You have been locked by the enemy ship. Please take evasive action immediately. The alarm sounded like the god of death again in Baixuan's ears. Under Zero's control, Golden Crow automatically made evasive action. 1 second, 2 seconds. Baixuan, who had not seen the word successful evasion, was stunned. What's going on? He subconsciously raised his head and looked at the holographic image beside him. A burst of extremely dense fire appeared in front of the flagship of the Proxima civilization. Seeing the familiar explosion effect, Baixuan felt his eyes warm up. That was the explosion of the electromagnetic cannon projectile carrying a miniature nuclear bomb. At the same time, a highlighted message appeared in front of everyone. Everyone, we are here. Prepare to counterattack. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.